I'm sitting at my desk in Valar Academy, holding my head as memories flood into my mind. I realize I've been reborn into this body, into a world that feels familiar. It's the game I used to play on my computer back home. I had just finished one playthrough and was about to start over when I lost consciousness. And now here I am, living as someone else. I figure out who I am now. I'm the second son of Baron Thorn, a noble family ruling a small territory in the north of the Kingdom of Walls. As the second son, I won't inherit the title or the land, but my father still gave me a future. He sent me here to Valar Academy to study magic after discovering I had talent for it. In 2.5 years, I've already become a magic apprentice. Things were looking good for me, but then everything changes. A letter arrives. The river near our territory flooded and broke through its banks, drowning our lands. Worse, the flood stirred up a magical beast forest nearby, and a horde of pigmen raiders attacked during the chaos. My father and my older brother both died fighting them. Now our territory is in complete disorder. I think about money first. Tuition at this academy costs 500 gold a year, not counting everything else I need to keep training. Without my family's support, I can't stay here. I need to go back and take control of the situation. While I'm thinking this through, I notice a strange feeling in my mind. I focus on it, and a transparent character panel pops up in front of me, just like in the game. I can see my stats: strength, agility, constitution, intelligence, perception, charm, and mana. I have spells like Mage Hand, Fire Control, Water Control, Fire Arrow, and Light. I have skills too, like basic meditation and basic swordsmanship. Then I check my traits. I have Reincarnator, which lets me keep memories from my past life and gives me extra intelligence. I have a small affinity for fire magic. I have natural charm that makes people and creatures like me more easily. And I have a hidden talent for alchemy, enough to become a skilled apprentice one day. I touch my own face without thinking. Sharp eyes, a straight nose, a face that looks almost too perfect. I can't help smiling a little at that. Then I look at the quest log next to my character panel. There's a quest: Journey Home. Return safely to the Thorn territory. The difficulty is listed as medium. The reward is 50 gold coins and a perception fragment. My smile fades immediately. Medium difficulty means there's real danger waiting for me if I go back. I just want to go home and take care of my family's land. Why would that put my life at risk? I realize my family's disaster might not be a simple accident. If it wasn't just bad luck, then someone might have caused it on purpose. Or even if they didn't cause it, people could be circling now like wolves, ready to tear apart what's left of my family while we're weak. I remember that even in the modern world I came from, there were dangerous, cut-off lines you didn't want to fall below. In a kingdom like this, with no real law to protect a weakened noble family, that danger is even greater. I decide not to rush. The title and the land will still be there whether I return now or later. What matters most right now is staying alive and getting stronger. If I have enough power, no wolf will be able to touch me. While I'm lost in thought, a girl in a fancy robe leans over and nudges my arm. It's Eunice Lancer, a golden-haired girl with twin tails, smirking at me with her usual proud, cat-like expression. She teases me, saying this is the first time she's ever seen me lose focus during Professor Caleb's class. I look up at her pretty face and answer honestly, without hiding anything. I tell her that something happened, and I'm troubled by it. Seeing the normally serious and composed me suddenly look so lost surprises her. The contrast catches her off guard, and I notice her blue eyes soften with concern, like she wants to pull me into a hug. Eunice keeps her chin up like always, even though I can tell she's worried about me. She tells me there's nothing she can't fix, and that today she'll give me a chance to ask her for help. I know Eunice is rich. She's been my deskmate for 2.5 years, and one day she'll lead the Golden Rose Merchant Guild. I decide I need to hold on to this golden opportunity. So I go along with it and say, sincerely, that I beg for her help, calling her wise and generous. Eunice freezes. She's used to teasing me, not the other way around. My usual cold and serious self complimenting her catches her completely off guard. Her pale cheeks turn pink, and she tells me to stop looking at her like that and just say what I want. I tell her I want to borrow money. She mutters something about taking pity on me since I asked so nicely, then quickly pulls off the small money pouch tied to her waist and hands it to me. Class ends right then, and she rushes off with a red face, looking like a startled rabbit. I'm left holding her pouch, feeling strange. I only wanted to borrow a few gold coins, but she just gave me her whole pouch. I wonder when exactly I earned this much trust from her. Was my old self really that charming without even knowing it? I realized the pouch is actually a small dimensional bag, a magic storage item worth at least 50 magic stones, way more valuable than gold coins. I tuck it away carefully and head back to my dorm to count what's inside. 123 gold coins drop onto my table, coin by coin. I'm amazed. I've only saved 27 gold coins myself in 2.5 years of pinching pennies for my studies. Meanwhile, back in her own room, Eunice rolls around on her bed in embarrassment, realizing she gave away her whole dimensional bag, with all the spending money she had left for the month. She can't explain why she did it, but she keeps thinking about how lost and helpless I looked earlier, and it bothers her in a way she doesn't understand. I have no idea any of this is happening. I just think I got lucky with one compliment and one favor. I pack up my few belongings, spare robes, a small jar of focus ointment, half a vial of soothing potion, some basic spellbooks, and a bag of spell materials. Nothing too valuable. That night, I lie down and rub focus ointment on my temples, then start meditating using the technique from my basic meditation book. I picture geometric shapes with my mind, over and over, pulling invisible elemental particles from the air into my body, slowly building up mana. Normally, I can only do this 9 times before I'm exhausted, even with the ointment's help. Tonight, I do it 21 times before I finally run out of strength. When I check my status panel, my mana has gone from 91 to 93, and my meditation skill has gained experience too. I'm thrilled. At this pace, I could become a full mage within a week, way ahead of my original 6-month goal. But becoming a real mage means I need special potions and a ritual circle, and those materials together cost at least 100 gold coins, even with my student discount. I touch my newly fattened pouch and think hard. If I keep spending without earning, I'll be broke again within a week. I need a side income, or, more realistically, I need to borrow more money. The next day, in Professor Caleb's open class, Eunice walks in with her chin held high as always, looking proud like a little lion cub. The moment she enters, my eyes lock onto her. When she instinctively looks around for me, she meets my burning stare immediately, a stare full of nothing but pure, single-minded hunger for gold. I notice Eunice tensing up as I stare at her, but she still puts on her usual teasing tone in front of the other students, calling my eyes, like a puppy's. I cut her off first, telling her she looks tired, asking if she slept badly last night. She freezes, then nods without thinking. She really didn't sleep well, because of me. She wonders if I'm actually worried about her. I take out her dimensional bag and hand it back, apologizing for not returning it sooner, saying I must have made her worry all night. She quickly shakes her head and says she wasn't worried at all, but seeing my guilty face makes her chest tighten for no reason. Seeing her fluster like this, I know my plan is working. I mention that I'm about to become a full mage, and in her excitement and admiration, I manage to borrow 200 more gold coins from her. She ends up holding a signed IOU from me, and I walk away with her pocket money. When she sees I'm about to go buy potions and ritual materials, she stops me and offers to take me somewhere cheaper, insisting she's not doing it because she cares, just that she doesn't want me wasting money. I happily agree, calling her Lady Eunice, which she tells me to stop doing because it sounds insincere. As we leave the classroom together, bickering, the room goes quiet behind us, then erupts into gossip. Some boy complains jealously about what Eunice could possibly see in me, and everyone laughs at him until he runs off embarrassed. Truthfully, it's not hard to guess. I'm good-looking, talented, and one of the best mage students among the nobles here, even if I usually keep to myself. Eunice leads me to the Academy Plaza, full of buildings made of marble, bronze, and glass. A massive steam airship roars overhead, and even though I've seen this many times before, it still amazes me. Eunice barely reacts, already used to it. She brings me to a shop marked with a golden flame. The Golden Flame Merchant Guild, one of the kingdom's top guilds, and the future version of the Golden Rose Guild she's meant to lead one day. I've never shopped here before since it's expensive. When we walk in, the female attendant greets Eunice with deep respect, calling her Miss Eunice. Eunice says she's just showing a friend around, sounding suddenly proud and commanding. nothing like her usual playful self. The attendant, Dana Ross, asks what I need. I list out the potions and materials for becoming a full mage. Dana smiles, impressed that someone so young is already advancing, and goes upstairs to gather everything. Once Dana leaves, the room goes quiet between us. I finally ask Eunice if Dana knows who she really is. Eunice blinks, confused, and tells me she's actually the manager of this shop. She runs it. I'm stunned. She's my age, and she's already managing a high-end shop. She explains that she only manages it. She doesn't own it. I can sense the disappointment and ambition behind her words, so I tell her honestly that she's clearly capable enough to deserve owning it one day. She goes quiet, then admits weakly that she'll never get the chance. She has 2 older brothers ahead of her in line. She quickly changes the subject, saying how jealous she is of my magic talent, since she still can't even cast a basic light spell. She forces a smile, congratulating me on soon joining the official mage class. I see the sadness behind her smile, so I decide to share a little of my plan. I tell her I won't be joining the mage class for a long time. In fact, I'll be leaving the academy for a while. She jumps up, surprised, first looking happy, then quickly worried, asking why. I hesitate, then tell her I need to go home to take care of something important. I don't tell her the real reason. It's my family's business, and I don't want her pity or to burden her with it. She can see the sadness in my eyes up close, and it makes her heart skip. Before she can ask more, Dana returns. Eunice quickly straightens up like a startled deer, her cheeks still flushed from the moment we just shared. Dana brings out the potions and ritual materials I asked for, but before I can pay, Eunice pulls out her gold card and pays for everything herself, saying it's just a one-time favor since I'm her friend. I lean into it, calling her generous and kind, even saying she's like the sun to me. She gets flustered and embarrassed, swatting at me with her twin ponytails before practically running back into the shop like a startled cat. I feel a little disappointed I didn't get to flatter her more. A rich friend like her deserves all the appreciation I can give. Since I just saved a lot of money, I decide to spend it on extra gear instead. I visit a cheap equipment shop and my usual potion shop, spending 53 gold coins on leather armor, a short sword, a wrist crossbow, 10 poisoned arrows, 5 jars of focus ointment, and 10 bottles of minor awakening potion. Useful for restoring mental energy, even though normally I'd never buy that many at once. I also asked Professor Caleb for some time off. Back in my dorm, I drink a potion and apply the ointment right away, and through my status panel, I can watch every bit of progress in real time. My meditation skill reaches max level, and my mana jumps from 93 to 99 in just 3 days, way faster than I expected. Mastering meditation lets me split my focus into 2 streams at once, doubling how fast I absorb mana, which helps offset the side effect of overusing potions too quickly. I can feel my mana ready to overflow. I'm close to a real breakthrough. To become an official mage, I need to learn a Tier 1 spell and build something called a mana channel inside my body, which lets me recover mana naturally and hold even more of it. To do this safely, I pay 5 gold coins to use the Academy's meditation room and set up a ritual circle using the materials I bought. This circle is one of the few the school teaches for free. It's used to calm and control the wild raw mana in the air so experiments don't go wrong. Sitting in the center of the circle, I drink the powerful mana potion in one gulp. Pure, intense mana explodes inside me immediately, causing sharp pain through my whole body. I quickly use my mental focus along with the ritual circle to control the wild mana, guiding it gently through every part of my body until it connects with my mind. In that moment, with my mind completely calm, instinct takes over. I picture a perfect geometric shape forming deep in my consciousness. Circles, triangles, and squares stacked together. At the very center, an eye opens. It's my own eye. I can suddenly sense every part of my body, every bone, every organ, every drop of blood. My rising mental power locks down all the wild mana inside me. When I open my eyes again, I don't even have time to enjoy my new strength before my status panel pings with a message. I've officially become a mage, and I need to choose 2 origin traits. The options include becoming a child of fire to boost my fire spells, becoming an arcane weaver who can cast most spells without using materials, gaining a mana channel with 10 times the normal mana capacity, gaining a body built for magic that lets me permanently hold spell models in my mind, and becoming everyone's darling with charm, so strong, even gods would love me. I'm confused. In the game, you're only supposed to pick one origin trait, and only at the start. I think I missed my chance since I already had memories of being an apprentice mage. But somehow, this looks like a bug, and I get to choose two. After thinking it over carefully, I choose Arcane Weaver and Body Built for Magic. The moment I make my choice, new energy rushes through my changed body. The Eye of Truth glows again in my mind, lighting up the darkness inside me. Mana flows through every part of my body, hammering and shaping me like metal being forged, until my body and my mana become one perfect whole. My once thin frame, weakened from too much meditation and not enough exercise, suddenly fills out with sharp, defined muscle. Each breath feels stronger and steadier, my steps heavier and more grounded. But once I put my robe back on, the muscles disappear from view, and I look like my normal self again, still weak in close combat, at least on the outside. I think through what I gained. My new trait, Body Built for Magic, makes up for my weak melee skills and lets me permanently keep spell models in my mind without losing them. My other trait, Arcane Weaver, helps me build spell models more easily and even cast spells without needing physical materials. Neither trait might be the strongest one available, but they fit who I am right now perfectly. Checking my status panel, everything has changed. My stats are way higher across the board, and my mana has jumped to over 150, double what most mages get from breaking through with potions alone. I now have enough mental capacity to hold 2 Tier 0 spells and 1 Tier 1 spell. As a student here, I get a discount on my first Tier 1 spell, so it'll only cost me 100 gold. The only thing missing is advanced meditation, the real key to becoming a true high-level mage. Without it, no matter how hard you train, you'll never break through to the next level. But advanced meditation is expensive, dangerous, and almost impossible to learn without a master teaching you directly. Mages have an old saying, truth has weight, meaning if you're not ready for it, it can drive you mad or kill you. I decide that's a problem for another day. I leave the meditation room and go find Professor Caleb, asking respectfully to buy a Tier 1 spell scroll. He's delighted, telling me my growth has surprised even him. I'm the first of his star students to officially become a mage. I can tell he's proud, partly because it reflects well on him as a teacher, and partly because he's always favored me a little since I'm one of his better-looking, smarter students. He skips the usual paperwork and tells me to just pick a spell myself, and he'll handle the approval. I thank him sincerely, laying on a little extra flattery, which only makes him happier. He even promises to write me a recommendation letter when I apply for the mage class later. I take the chance to tell him honestly that I need to go home for a while, explaining my family's situation without holding back. He looks sympathetic and promises to help smooth things over with the school about my leave. I choose the spell, Greased Heels, a movement spell, and pay the 100 gold coins. Professor Caleb personally takes care of getting me the scroll. Back in my room, I open the scroll, and a burst of light flows into my mind, filling it with knowledge about the spell, how to cast it, the hand signs, the magical runes involved. It feels like soaking up everything instantly, like a sponge. I realize why most people never get access to this kind of knowledge. If basic spells are like simple math, Tier 1 spells are like calculus. The runes are so complex that without training, they'd look like meaningless scribbles to anyone else. But somehow, I understand it completely, not just in my head, but with my whole body. I quickly form the hand sign and cast Greased Heels for the first time. Instantly, my foot feels lighter, and I shoot forward like lightning. What normally takes me 10 minutes to walk takes me less than 3 minutes to run. Curious how fast I can really go, I push harder, and within a minute, I'm already back in my room. The spell lasts a full 7 minutes and barely costs me any mana, only 20 points. I gain experience for using it for the first time, marking real progress toward mastering it. I stare into my mind, looking at the Tier 1 spell model now sitting next to my Eye of Truth, and I can hardly believe how strong I feel. I remember it took me 3 months just to learn my very first basic spell, and even after getting better, basic spells still took weeks. But this time, I learned a whole Tier 1 spell in one try. It feels just like a game. Click, and I know it instantly. My Arcane Weaver trait turns out to be incredibly powerful. When I try improving spells I already know, like Mage Hand and Fire Arrow, I instinctively sense ways to tighten and optimize their structure. After a few tries, I successfully upgrade both spells, gaining a burst of experience for each. These basic spells now feel as easy to me as simple math. Normally, casting a spell takes focus, hand signs, and sometimes materials, but now I can cast with barely a thought. I test my upgraded Mage Hand, and it brings me a glass of water from the kitchen without me lifting a finger. Its reach has grown to 10 meters, way beyond a normal apprentice's range, and it moves more smoothly too. My mind keeps buzzing with new ideas, like combining the runes from Mage Hand and Fire Arrow to create something new. But I stop myself. Creating new spells is extremely dangerous, and I've heard of mages dying from experiments like that. I'm not ready for that kind of risk yet, especially without proper safety equipment or a controlled environment. Instead, I spend the next 2 days grinding my spells using my remaining potions and ointments. I max out my light spell completely, though my new movement spell, Greased Heels, is still only level 2. After all this intense practice, my mana climbs to 170. Just as I'm feeling good about my progress, another letter arrives from my family steward, and it ruins my mood instantly. It says my father and brother's funeral needs me to come home to lead it. Worse, my uncle Carson, my father's younger brother, has shown up at my family's territory, claiming he wants to help with disaster relief and the funeral arrangements. I don't buy it for a second. This man hasn't visited in over a decade, and now suddenly he's there helping out of the kindness of his heart? He's clearly trying to use this crisis to take control while I'm away. If I wait any longer, he might win over the people and leave me with nothing but an empty title when I finally return. I expected vultures to circle eventually, but not this fast. Still, I decide it's time to go home. I check my quest log, and the difficulty has dropped from medium to low, meaning my life isn't in immediate danger anymore. Even if I don't know exactly how risky it'll still be. The next morning, I head to the Academy Plaza. Eunice is already waiting for me in a yellow robe, chin held high as always, teasing me about being such a hassle before handing over everything I asked for: healing potions, antidote, basic alchemy textbook, and a ticket for the airship straight to Starbase City. Just these items alone cost a small fortune, even with her discount, and I realize I've basically spent all my money now. I thank her sincerely, telling her she looks especially radiant today. She blushes and acts annoyed, clearly pleased by the compliment. But once she remembers I'm actually leaving, her happy expression fades into quiet sadness. She pouts and demands that I come back safely. I promise her I will, then decide to give her one piece of honest advice as a friend. I tell her she shouldn't force herself to become a mage. Instead, she should consider becoming a god path walker, someone who follows a god's path and gains blessings, even without being a devoted believer. I tell her she'd make an excellent chosen of wealth. She repeats the words quietly, confused, asking what I mean, but I'm already walking away before she can ask more. Eunice, coming from a wealthy merchant family, has always lightly worshipped the goddess of wealth, Wujin, though only in the casual way most people do, visiting temples occasionally to wish for fortune. Becoming a true god path walker usually requires some kind of ritual to please the god directly. She doesn't understand why I think she could become one, especially for the goddess of wealth specifically, but she decides she wants to try. Boarding the airship, I watch Eunice disappear from the plaza below. I know giving advice to someone is risky. If things go wrong, people often blame the one who suggested it. That's part of why I never told her more about her future before now. Still, she's been so generous to me. I figure the risk is worth it. I pull out my alchemy textbook, and a golden card slips out from between the pages. My mage hand catches it instantly and places it in my palm. It's a note from Eunice. She warns me not to think I can just disappear after borrowing so much money from her, and she's given me her VIP card, good for a discount at any of her guild shops. She tells me to come home safe. I laugh quietly, picturing her face while writing that note. It hits me that this world isn't just a game anymore. Eunice feels real, alive. Ever since I got my memories back, I felt a little distant from this world, like I was just playing through it. But she reminds me I actually belong here now. I open my textbook and start studying seriously. The dense alchemy knowledge that would confuse most people flows easily into my mind. I understand everything instantly. Then I get angry. Realizing the healing potion I paid 30 gold coins for, even discounted, probably costs less than 5 silver coins to make. This industry is wildly profitable, and I decide I want in on it. For the next 3 days, I barely put the book down. I sleep 8 hours, recover my mana, train my greased heels spell, then go right back to studying. In just 3 days, I nearly master a subject that normally takes mages months or years to learn. I'm basically skilled enough to be a doctor now, though not quite a true alchemist yet. Real potion making requires spells I don't have yet, like extraction and magic flame. I'm annoyed that the book explains the theory but skips the actual recipes, except for something called magic water, purified water infused with mana through distillation, used as a base for potions. It's worth real money, but making a single ton of it would barely earn me 1 gold coin, which sounds like backbreaking work for very little reward. I decide that's clearly not the way to get rich in this business. Eventually, I land in Starbase City, the closest major city to the northern border, known for its star-shaped harbor. My family's territory is still hundreds of kilometers away, blocked partly by a dangerous magical beast forest, so the only way forward is by boat. I change into a dark gray robe and pull up my hood, looking every bit like a sketchy dark mage. People give me space without me even trying. After restocking on supplies, I head into the city's back alleys to find a broker my father once introduced me to. I push open a worn wooden door and find a man in a brown robe lazily reading a newspaper. He jumps slightly when the door opens, hand twitching towards something hidden. I pull back my hood and tell him calmly not to make any sudden moves. I just need a boat heading toward Northwind Town. The man, Jasper Newman, immediately changes his tone, smiling and standing up to greet me as young Lord Thorn. No, Baron Thorn now. I tell him I'm in a hurry and toss 2 gold coins onto the table, more money than a dock worker might save in a year. His eyes light up with greed as he scrambles to arrange a ship for me. He returns sweating, holding a dirty ticket, claiming it was hard to find passage since the floods wrecked the harbor on the other side. Then he hints that he needs a few more coins, settling on 3. Clearly assuming I'm just a weak younger son who got lucky with this title, someone. He can squeeze for cash since I probably won't survive long anyway. I stay quiet, then hand over the coins one by one, letting them drop and clink against the floor. As Jasper greedily lunges to grab them, I draw my short sword and drive it straight through his back without hesitation. He tries to move, tries to breathe, but the blade has gone through his heart and lungs. He chokes, coughs up blood, and dies on the floor. My mage hand pulls the boat ticket from Jasper's grip and gathers the coin pouches off his body and the floor. Counting them, I find 5 coins instead of 2. Looks like he had another big deal going on recently. I notice I don't feel much of anything after killing someone for the first time, which makes me wonder for a second if something's wrong with me. But once I pull my sword free and warm blood spills out, a wave of disgust hits me. So no, I'm not a monster, I just killed cleanly. Enough not to feel shaken by it. I wipe my blade clean using his robe, step over his body, and lock the door behind me with my mage hand. I know his blackmail wasn't just simple greed. No one in their right mind threatens a baron openly unless someone bigger is backing them. The fact that he only tried to extort me instead of trying to kill me outright tells me he was just a pawn, someone too scared to go all the way. And the fact that he wasn't worried about me coming back for revenge means something else is waiting for me. I realize this ship is probably the accident someone arranged for me. Checking my quest log, my progress has only moved to 10%. Avoiding danger completely might satisfy the bare minimum requirement, but it won't satisfy me. I decide to take the risk and board this ship anyway, hoping to expose whoever is behind this and deal with their whole operation. Following the address on the ticket, I find a small smuggling ship hidden on a beach past a cliffside forest, the kind of ship that avoids port taxes by hiding nearby and selling tickets through brokers like Jasper. I mask my face and head over. A sleepy crewman checks tickets and asks to search my bag, just to make sure I'm not some lunatic or cultist sneaking aboard. I let him glance inside from a distance. He sees a few jars and books, nothing alarming, and waves me through without really checking. Once aboard, more passengers pile in, and the cabin fills with the smell of mold, fish, and sweat. I find a corner and slip into meditation to block out the discomfort. With my current body, I could go 3 days without sleep and still feel fine unless I'm casting heavy spells. A day passes without incident. Maybe I was wrong about Jasper, or maybe staying hidden bought me some time. Aside from a fight that leaves one passenger dead, nothing major happens. If anything, the death makes the cabin quieter. Late the next night, while everyone else sleeps, I hear a faint pop. Something's wrong. I open my eyes and look through the cabin's only window. There's a strange glowing light on the water outside, way too noticeable for the middle of the night. I jump up to investigate, but find a small thief already at the door ahead of me. He assumes I'm a fellow thief and offers to split the ship's loot with me, then picks the lock with a thin wire. The door clicks open, and somehow I instantly gain knowledge of lockpicking and stealth. A new skill unlocks in my mind. I'm a little surprised, but I don't have time to think about it. I cast Greased Heels and vanish from the thief's sight in an instant. He freaks out, assuming I must be some kind of enhanced fighter rivaling a mage, and figures he won't get to split the loot evenly. He decides to grab what he can and keep sneaking around, not realizing I'm not interested in stealing anything. I rush to the back deck and find the source of the glow, a crewman tossing small glowing orbs into the sea, leaving a trail of glittering light on the water, completely hidden under the sound of the waves. It's a signal trail for someone to follow us in the dark. I grab him from behind before he can react, choking him down to the deck and demanding to know who he's signaling. Terrified, he confesses everything. Someone paid him 2 silver coins to throw the orbs overboard at night, and that's all he knows. He begs me not to kill him. Looking past him toward the stern, I see firelight cutting through the darkness, outlining a ship flying a black and red flag, a pirate ship. So this is the accident meant for me. I look back down at the trembling crewman in my hands and tell him quietly that feeling dizzy is normal, that he should just sleep now. Then, without hesitation, I snap his neck like a dry twig. His body goes limp against the deck. I don't know if what he told me was true or not, but I've never liked accidents. Following the trail of glowing lights, the pirate ship closes in like a shark sensing blood. On deck, the pirates roar with excitement as their captain, a massive man named Savage, raises his cutlass and promises each man 5 silver coins once they take the merchant ship. Inside the captain's quarters, 2 men wait, a thin assassin in leather armor and a well-dressed, arrogant man named Lauren. Savage demands Lauren arrange his escape after this job, since killing a baron is a death sentence if he's caught. Lauren coldly reminds him he always risks his neck doing dirty work and promises payment from the Kevin family if Savage just does his job. Satisfied, Savage storms out. Lauren quietly tells the assassin to follow Savage and finish the job regardless. He'll get paid either way. The pirate ship crashes into ours. Pirates flood the deck, and chaos erupts as panicked passengers collide with attackers. I press myself against a wall in the shadows. When a pirate walks past me with a cruel grin, I strike fast, driving my blade straight through his chest, then tearing upward, splitting him open. This is my 3rd kill, and I force down the nausea long enough to strip his clothes and disguise myself as one of the pirates, blending into the chaos. Using the darkness as cover, I search for the captain. Savage is easy to spot. His cutlass, flintlock pistol, and 3 gold rings make him stand out even in the chaos. I push through the fighting, closing in on him. When I get within 10 meters, Savage suddenly turns and looks straight at me, his eyes flashing with fear from some potion-enhanced instinct warning him of danger. I don't realize he's sensed something's wrong. I think he spotted me as an intruder, so I quickly lie, saying I found a soft, noble-looking kid hiding below deck. Before I finish talking, he fires his pistol point blank. The gun has never missed a target within 50 meters. Smoke fills the air, and Savage gasps, thinking he's safe, but the danger doesn't fade. It gets worse. To his shock, I'm still standing. Even with a bullet hole clearly visible in my chest, smoke still rising from the wound. The bullet had punched through my cheap armor and lodged in my flesh, but it didn't stop me. I push through the pain and close the distance in a heartbeat. I shout and swing my blade hard, startling him into raising his own weapon to block. But at the last second, I pull back instead, a feint. While he's distracted, my mage hand shoots up from below and grabs him where it hurts most, then starts spinning violently. The pain is unbearable. Savage doubles over, screaming in agony, his voice echoing across the deck so loudly that every man nearby flinches in sympathy pain. While he's frozen in shock and pain, my blade comes down and slices clean through his exposed neck. His head rolls across the deck, eyes wide with shock and pain. Seeing their captain's head roll away instantly breaks the pirates' fighting spirit, and the tide of the battle turns. In the shadows, the assassin watching everything freezes in disbelief. Barely 15 seconds passed between me attacking and Savage dying. He curses Lauren under his breath for not warning him about a monster like me. He almost backs out, but greed for his payment wins out, and he steels himself to try anyway. He throws a smoke bomb laced with poison at my feet. Thick toxic smoke explodes around me, swallowing me from view. He grips his crossbow tightly, aiming at the edge of the smoke, ready to strike the moment I try to escape. Instead, a blinding flash of light bursts from inside the smoke. I cast light on my sword. The glowing blade bursts out of the smoke like a bolt of lightning, flying straight toward where the assassin is hiding. It misses him, slamming into the deck just 2 steps to his side, but the bright light from the blade completely exposes his hiding spot. The assassin's mouth drops open as the truth hits him. I'm a mage. He realizes he was set up. He was only told to help finish off a weak nobleman's son, not fight an actual mage. The 30 gold coins he thought he'd earn easily now feel like a death sentence. Before he can even react, I gather fire in my palm and fire 3 fire arrows at once, instantly, with no warning. The spell slammed directly into his face. He screams, engulfed in flames, and collapses next to the glowing sword, his body going still soon after. I cough my way out of the poisoned smoke, muttering that he was weaker than I expected. Just to be safe, I down an antidote and a healing potion, then dig the bullet out of my chest. The wound closes up almost instantly thanks to the potion. Still moving fast from my greased heels spell, I rush toward the pirate ship like a ghost. The remaining pirates scatter in terror at the sight of me. They've never dealt with anything like this. Seeing their captain's headless body and the burned corpse of the assassin is more than enough to convince them I'm not worth fighting. I spot lights still glowing from the captain's quarters and kick the heavy door open. Inside, a man named Lauren mistakes me for one of Savage's pirates and arrogantly demands to know if Savage finished the job. I smile, realizing I've stumbled onto something even better than I expected, direct information about who's behind all this. When he senses something's wrong, he reaches for his belt, but I'm faster. I grab his wrist, pull out the dagger hidden there, and twist his arm hard enough to snap the bone. Before he can scream, I pin him to the floor with my knee on his throat, choking off his air, and start using a memory extraction spell on him. Terrified he's about to be beaten to death, Lauren spills everything. He admits his cousin, a steward named Fuluin, paid him 200 gold coins to deal with the returning young Baron Thorn, meaning me. Lauren kept 100 for himself, used some to put a bounty on my whereabouts in Starbase City, and paid the rest to the pirate captain and the assassin. He even offers me his hidden savings at home in exchange for his life. I can't help but laugh at how foolish and greedy he is. I take his coin purse and keep pressing him for more information, asking who Fuluin's cousin really works for. After breaking another one of his fingers for trying to dodge the question, he finally screams out the truth. Viscount Kevin. His cousin works as Kevin's steward. Once I've gotten everything useful out of him, I take his own dagger and stab it straight into the back of his skull without hesitation. I take a breath and search the captain's quarters thoroughly. I find Savage's journal and several letters proving his connections to corrupt nobles and merchants in Starbase City. Evidence of years of piracy and murder done on their behalf. I decide to keep these letters. They might be useful later. Checking my quest log, my progress jumps to 85%. I'm clearly on the right track. The name, Viscount Kevin, Hadrian Kevin, a vassal under Count Wedelbro, means nothing to me personally. I don't know what my father could have done to make an enemy of him, since political matters were always passed down to my older brother, not me. Still, knowing who my enemy is makes everything simpler from here. I burn Lauren's body using fire arrow, then use the light to search further, smashing through a wall and floor until I find a hidden compartment. Inside is a small chest filled with copper, silver, and a few gold coins, along with a worn notebook. I'm a little disappointed by how little money there is, especially knowing Savage once spent a fortune on a rare potion that gave him supernatural reflexes. The notebook turns out to be a combat technique manual for something called Disarming Strike. I remember now. That was the same move Savage used right before I countered him with my mage hand. I practiced the motion once and immediately gained the skill myself, marking real progress in learning it. I think to myself that learning new things really does come easy to me now. Every new skill is useful, especially one as practical as this. Far better than the basic swordsmanship I learned as a kid from a night back home. I pack everything up and step out of the captain's quarters. Outside, the fighting has stopped. The surviving merchants are now celebrating their survival and cursing the dead pirates. I walk back onto the merchant ship's deck with steady steps, and everyone stares at me with awe. The captain rushes over, fawning, thanking me for saving them. I cut him off and ask if he's heading to Northwind Town to sell grain. He's confused, wondering why I care about his business. I pull off my mask, revealing my face, and tell him plainly, I'm Lorien Thorn, Baron of Northwind Town, and I'm buying his entire shipment of grain. He can name his price. He nearly collapses, dropping to his knees in fear. He'd planned to sell that grain at inflated prices to people suffering from the flood back home. And now he's standing right in front of the Baron whose land he intended to profit from. He begs to give it to me for free, terrified for his life. I shake my head and tell him that wouldn't be right. That would make me no better than the pirates. In the end, I buy his entire 20,000 pounds of grain at a fair price, paying him 200 gold coins. He's overjoyed. He didn't make his big profit, but at least he broke even and kept his life. He immediately rallies his crew to rush the delivery to my territory, partly out of gratitude and partly out of fear I might change my mind. Looking around, I spot the thief from earlier hiding in a corner, looking like he might cry. Realizing the fellow thief he tried to team up with is actually a baron. I just chuckle and look away. After a quiet pause, one of the passengers nervously approaches and asks if he can buy a few loaves of bread, explaining he wants to check on his uncle back home, who might be starving because of the flood. I say yes, and that opens the floodgates. More passengers step forward too, some wanting food for their families, some for themselves. With the pirates' bodies still on deck, nobody dares think about reselling any of this grain for profit now. I let the ship's captain handle collecting payment and arrange for everything, grain included, to be delivered straight to my territory. The captain, now fully aware of who I am, even offers me his own quarters for the rest of the trip, which I gladly accept instead of going back to that cramped, smelly cabin. 3 days later, the ship finally reaches my homeland. My quest log lights up, mission complete. I receive the base reward of 50 gold coins and a perception fragment, plus a bonus reward of 100 gold coins, a new Tier 1 spell called Eye of Inspection, and a new trait called Vigilance, which sharpens my sense of danger far beyond normal people. 150 gold coins appear in my bag, and the knowledge for my new spell floods into my mind instantly thanks to my high intelligence. The spell normally needs an undamaged eyeball as a material, but I realize with my sharp insight that I can cast it without one too. I focus my mana, weaving it between my fingers, and within seconds a small glowing blue I made entirely of mana floats in front of me. My vision splits in two at once, which makes me dizzy for a moment, but I push through it and send the eye flying toward the shore. Through it, I see the damage clearly, broken fishing boats, a wrecked harbor, and townspeople who look thin and exhausted. This is Northwind Town, the heart of my family's territory. Along with 8 villages, 3 regular estates, 1 large estate, and 3 knight territories, my family's land is actually one of the wealthier baronies in the north, normally, bringing in 4,000 to 5,000 gold a year in taxes. That income is what funded my father's soldiers, knights, and even my expensive education back at the academy. Seeing the town in such rough shape makes my chest tighten. My new spell reaches its limit at 10 meters and drains my focus the longer I use it. But it's cheap, subtle, and useful enough to be worth it. As I rub my aching temples, a shaky voice calls out, "Young master, is that you, Lorien?" I turn and see an elderly man approaching, well-dressed despite his exhaustion. I immediately recognize him. Steward Ed. His full name is Ed Dawson, a loyal servant of our family for generations, dating back to his grandfather's time. He practically raised me growing up, Since my father always focused more attention on my older brother, and my mother passed away shortly after I was born, Ed has always treated me with real affection. When he hears my voice, tears immediately fill his tired eyes. He rushes toward me, ready to kneel, calling himself my most loyal servant and saying the family is counting on me now. I quickly stop him from kneeling. I don't want this man, who's practically like a father to me, bowing at my feet. I ask him to tell me everything that's happened here. Unlike other vassals who might serve a new lord just as easily if the land changes hands, Ed's entire life is tied to my family specifically. If our family falls, he has nowhere else to go. That's likely why he's been the most anxious of anyone, sending letters constantly and waiting at the docks every single day since my father and brother died. Listening to Steward Ed's full report, my feelings get complicated. I originally assumed my Uncle Carson came here under the excuse of helping with disaster relief just to win over the people while I was away. Turns out he's even more shameless than I thought. He's a true master of feudal scheming. Ed managed the funeral with as much dignity as he could. But Carson used the funeral as his excuse to stay, then started raising grain prices, lending money at brutal rates, and even tried to take over our salt trade, which is actually the biggest source of income for our entire territory, since nobles across the north buy their salt from us. I'm furious. That's my money he's been stealing. According to Ed, we're down to just 23 soldiers, 2 knights, and a few squires. The castle's treasury was mostly looted by the pigmen raiders after the flood, and after paying out death compensation to fallen soldiers and knights, we barely have 100 gold coins left in our accounts, less than what I personally have on me right now. Worse, Ed estimates it'll cost at least 1,000 gold just to repair the castle, not counting rebuilding the town, restoring people's livelihoods, and continuing to pay our remaining soldiers and knights. Hearing the total, I almost want to turn around and leave. I came back to inherit a noble title, not to run a charity for an entire collapsed barony. Still, I knew this was likely. It's still my family's legacy, and I can't go back to the academy with a clear conscience until things are stable here. Besides, I need this territory's tax income to keep funding my magic training. Everything here needs to be restored, no excuses. Right then, a new quest appears. Restore my rule over the Thorn territory and reclaim my reputation as Baron. The difficulty is medium, with a base reward of 200 gold and 2 charm fragments. Seeing this, my motivation spikes immediately. I know the real prize is whatever bonus reward comes with full completion. I climb into the carriage and head home. Ed stays behind to organize transport for the grain I bought, while also spreading the news of my return throughout the territory. Word travels fast, and soon Viscount Kevin hears that I made it back safely. He immediately turns on his steward Fuluin, furious that the 500 gold he paid wasn't enough to get rid of me. Fuluin nervously explains that his cousin Lauren has gone silent, meaning something happened to him, and that I apparently came back as a fully ranked mage, with a close relationship to Eunice Lancer, daughter of a powerful merchant family, suggesting she helped equip me with protective magic items. Hearing this, Kevin relaxes slightly, assuming my good looks must have charmed a naive young heiress into helping me. He curses my luck, frustrated that he can't think of a clean way to finish the job now. Killing me on the road could be blamed on bad luck, but killing me now, on my own land, with no good excuse, would draw suspicion from the capital, especially with his current political maneuvering already putting him at risk. Behind the scenes, Count Weddleborough is trying to expand his influence in the north while the aging King of Walls searches for an heir, and Kevin is one of the men carrying out that plan. He needs this handled carefully. He orders Fuluin to find any way possible to force me into swearing loyalty to Count Weddleborough as a vassal. Fuluin, frustrated and humiliated, passes the pressure down to my Uncle Carson instead, vaguely threatening him to handle it, however necessary, fully prepared to let Carson take the blame if anything goes wrong. Meanwhile, Carson panics the moment he hears I'm back. He had already convinced himself he'd inherit the barony once I died along the way. Trying to calm himself down, he decides he still has a chance. He tells himself I'm young and will need his help to secure my position, and that Viscount Kevin's backing will make everything work out. Not yet knowing Fuluin's letter is already on its way, he goes to find Sir Ralph, one of our 2 remaining knights, to start making his own moves. As my carriage finally rolls up to the old castle, I see it standing damaged but barely livable after some quick repairs. Casting my eye of inspection again as I look around earns me more experience, and I notice my mana has climbed to 183 from all this repeated spellcasting. It works almost like meditation. Seeing how close I am to 200 mana gives me confidence. Official mages have 3 ranks. The first needs at least 100 mana, the second 400, and the third 800. At this rate, I won't be far from reaching the second rank. News of my return has already spread to all the household staff. By the time my carriage reaches the castle, the village elder, blacksmith, stable master, and doctor are all waiting for me. They bow as I step out, but I can see doubt and worry in their eyes. I'm too young, and they're not sure I can handle being barren. We gather in the manor hall, and they each lay out their problems. The elder tells me the flood and the pigmen attacks killed and injured many people, and the flooded farmland will hurt next year's crops. The blacksmith says half the weapons and armor are ruined, and he doesn't have enough iron. Plus, he wants his wages. The stable master reports we're down to just 23 war horses, 9 draft horses, and 12 oxen, with not enough feed to go around. The doctor warns that too many deaths combined with low herb supplies could lead to disease outbreaks soon. Everyone stares at me, basically asking for money one way or another. The whole territory feels like a sinking ship, and they're all afraid they won't get paid before it goes under. I stand up and address them sharply, telling them their wages aren't even due yet, and asking if this is their way of pressuring me. I let them feel a bit of the pressure that comes from being a mage and a noble, a sense of authority that makes them all instinctively lower their heads. Then I soften my tone slightly, promising they'll get their money and their bread, but that I expect loyalty in return. I have no use for servants who don't listen. They all relax a little, but I quickly shift the conversation toward something more important to me: my 2 remaining knights. The fact that neither of them showed up to greet me feels like a deliberate insult. Just as I'm thinking this, I hear hoofbeats approaching. A fully armored knight rides up with 3 squires behind him, his armor and even his horse covered in our family's dragon crest. He dismounts quickly, and his squires carry in a massive boar as a gift. When he removes his helmet, I recognize him immediately. It's Sir Ken, the man who taught me basic swordsmanship as a kid. He kneels before me, formally swearing loyalty as my knight. I greet him warmly, mentioning that the swordsmanship I know, I learned from him. He apologizes for being late, explaining he wanted to hunt this boar specially to welcome me home. I'm pleased, and I walk over to pat his shoulder, telling him to rise. Then I turn toward the bound boar, raise my hand, and blast it with a stream of fire, instantly searing off its skin and bristles until it's perfectly roasted, filling the room with the smell of cooked meat. I tell everyone, half joking, that I picked up a few magic tricks at the academy, and invite them all to stay for a proper meal tonight. Everyone reacts with stunned fear, nodding immediately. Sir Ken looks at me with real respect now. He once took a special potion years ago that pushed his body beyond normal limits, almost reaching the level of a great knight, but age and an old injury from fighting the pigmen have weakened him since. By mage standards, he's somewhere between rank 2 and 3 now. My display of power doesn't actually threaten him, but like most people, he naturally respects mages, especially one as young as me. Whatever doubts he had about my age disappear. Being this strong at my age only proves how much potential I have. I noticed something interesting. The faint sense of danger I'd felt standing near him earlier disappears completely after my little display. My vigilance trait picked up on real tension, not because Ken was hostile, but because some part of him doubted me. Now that doubt is gone, and I realize he's someone worth winning over properly. I bring out a healing potion and hand it to him, mentioning that Ed told me about an old wound from his battle with the pigmen. He recognizes the potion immediately, drinks it without hesitation, then removes his armor to reveal a stubborn wound on his stomach that's been healing slowly. And right there in front of everyone, it visibly closes up before their eyes. The doctor gasps, completely amazed. Ken drops to one knee again, this time swearing loyalty out of genuine gratitude rather than formality. Everyone else watching can't help but stare at me with new hunger in their eyes. They've never seen a potion that powerful, and now they're desperate to earn similar favor. Between my strength and my resources, The staff who were nervous moments ago now seem ready to work overtime just to prove their worth to me. The doctor especially goes quiet. He knows his herbal remedies are nothing compared to what I just demonstrated. Once everyone settles down and Ed returns with the boatload of grain, I begin handling territory matters, though it's really just me walking through town giving simple, obvious instructions. Treat the wounded, bury the dead properly, make sure refugees get real food. Yet even these basic, obvious orders feel revolutionary here. A baron who actually cares whether his soldiers and people live or die, who hands out bread and clean water instead of raising taxes to cover his own losses. People can hardly believe it. They genuinely feel like they owe me a debt they'll never be able to repay. After I cancel my father's ridiculous old taxes, the rain tax, the bathing tax, the moving tax, and other nonsense, the people's eyes light up. Someone starts chanting that they owe me a debt they can never repay, and soon the whole town joins in, treating me like their savior. Steward Ed, though, looks worried sick. As the territory's tax collector, cutting all this income while we're already broke feels like the sky falling on him. He asks me where the money for repairs and wages is supposed to come from now. I tell him plainly, these poor people barely have anything left to give. Squeezing them now is pointless. We can tax them again once they're back on their feet. He asks who we're supposed to collect from instead, and I tell him simply, whoever actually has money. Looking out the window, I see exactly who that is. My Uncle Carson, walking up with a group of guards, with a short, arrogant-looking knight named Ralph beside him. I pull out a jar of fresh eyeballs preserved in salt water from my bag, something I asked the doctor to collect, given how many people have died recently. Even I feel a small twinge of disgust looking at the jar, despite everything I've already been through. Ed notices what I'm doing and quickly lowers his head, hurrying outside to greet Ralph and Carson instead of staying to watch. Meanwhile, I pick up one eyeball and start building a new version of my Eye of Inspection spell, this time channeling it directly into the eyeball itself. The eye glows faintly as my mana seeps in, and the moment the spell finishes, the pupil suddenly contracts, looking almost alive. Looking through it feels completely different from casting it with raw mana. The range extends tenfold, and even if it flies over 100 meters and loses control, it can still send back a blurry image before falling. The mana gives it temporary life, letting it function for 6 hours at a time. I can manage up to 3 of these eyes at once. When I try a 4th, the overlapping images overwhelm my mind, giving me a splitting headache that blacks me out for several minutes. Recovering, I look at the 3 eyes floating beside me and think to myself that I probably look like a proper evil mage right now. Fitting, since this spell technically belongs to the necromancy school. I shake off the headache and focus on the real problem, how to deal with Ralph and Carson. The fact that they walked in together, without even pretending to act separately, tells me everything I need to know. If I don't deal with both of them soon, I won't sleep easy. Carson should be simple enough. He's just a merchant at heart. Ralph is trickier. He's the disowned second son of a minor noble family, someone who never had a real future back home and ended up here as a knight, looking down on everyone in our backwater territory. At least I don't need to worry about him teaming up with Sir Ken. What worries me more is that Ralph also took some kind of strength-enhancing potion. His skin is tough as armor, and he's strong enough to fight off blades and axes. I don't even know what potion he used. I really wish I could get my hands on something like that myself instead of always being caught off guard by enemies with hidden advantages. I send my 3 spy eyes into my sleeve and calmly walk downstairs. Ralph greets me with exaggerated, mocking surprise, apologizing for being too busy dealing with goblin attacks near the villages to come sooner. His tone makes my skin crawl. Carson steps in right after, putting on a fake warm smile, reminding me that he held me as a baby. Ed, standing beside me, snaps at both of them for not even bothering with proper titles or respect toward me as Baron. Ralph just smirks, acting offended on Ed's behalf, sarcastically scolding him for interrupting this touching uncle-nephew reunion. I stay completely calm. I tell Ralph that protecting the villages is important work, and since it's getting late, he should head back and we can discuss things tomorrow instead. He's caught off guard. He hasn't even gotten a real word in before being dismissed. Before he can argue, I turn straight to Carson, telling him warmly that since it's been so long, I'd actually love his help with something. Carson blinks, surprised. He expected me to be hostile with Ralph's backup, not friendly and naive. Looking at my young face, he can't hide a flicker of contempt, clearly thinking I'm still just a harmless kid. He laughs and agrees eagerly to help. I glance at Ralph, making it clear without words that this conversation is between family. He should leave. Ralph forces down his irritation, bows stiffly, and excuses himself. Once Ralph's gone, I step forward and take Carson's hand warmly. In that same instant, one of my spy eyes slips quietly from my sleeve into his, completely unnoticed. Smiling wider, I invite him to sit down with me. I sit Carson down and immediately start complaining about money, rebuilding the flooded town, repairing the castle, paying soldiers and knights, all while my father's savings were wiped out by the pigmen raid. Carson seems confused at first, clearly expecting me to confront him about the grain price gouging and the salt mine scheme instead. He sighs along with me dramatically, secretly thinking I'm an idiot for spending money on peasants and dead soldiers' families when I could be raising taxes and seizing land instead. While he's busy thinking how easily he could run this territory better than me, he notices I'm staring at him intensely, which startles him. I push directly. "Uncle Carson, I've told you all this, and you have nothing to offer?" He fumbles, clearly uncomfortable, since money is his bottom line. Glancing nervously at the soldiers around the room and his own guards stuck waiting outside, he reluctantly offers 500 silver. I jump up immediately, overjoyed, grabbing his hand, and praising his generosity loudly, as if he'd said 500 gold. He's too shocked to correct me, internally cursing my father for raising such a shameless little thief. At the same moment, Carson starts feeling an itch crawling up his back, like something burrowing into him. He panics, accusing me of cursing him with dark magic. I act completely innocent, asking if he's trying to back out of his generous offer to a baron. Sweat pours down his face as he denies it frantically, then screams for his servant Black to fetch 500 gold coins immediately. Once the gold arrives and I let him go, his back stops itching, and he assumes it was just nerves. He has no idea that a living spy eye is now embedded in his back, its veins digging into his flesh, feeding off his body to sustain itself. I've discovered something new. These modified eyes of inspection are basically living things sustained by my mana. They have no offensive power against someone my level, but they work perfectly for spying. Earlier, while shaking his hand, I quietly funneled mana directly into his right eye and built the spell right there without him noticing. It took precise control. Even a tiny mistake could have blinded him completely. Now, looking through his eye, I see the world from his perspective for the first time. It's strange seeing through someone else's eyes. His servant Black is currently consoling him by bad-mouthing me, but Black accidentally notices Carson's two mismatched eyes, one looking strangely wiser than the other, and bursts out laughing before quickly covering it with flattery, claiming that by taking 500 gold, I basically gave Carson silent permission to keep meddling in the salt trade. Reading his lips, I want to slap them both. What a shameless flatterer. I shut off the connection, annoyed, and start planning my next move. Now that I know exactly who's loyal and who isn't, it's time to win over my allies and eliminate my enemies. My quest progress for restoring the territory has already jumped to 58% just from the relief efforts and tax cuts. Dealing with Ralph by sending him off to fight goblins seems like a smart move. As for Carson, if his entire family happened to die suddenly, I'd legally inherit everything he owns anyway. Just as I'm thinking this through, Ed knocks and enters, reporting that the boar is finally cooked. I ask him casually where Carson lives. He tells me it's a village called Gaz, only about 13 kilometers away. That's convenient. As a good nephew, I should pay my dear uncle and his whole family a visit sometime soon. After the boar feast ends, I head back to my room. While reading through my alchemy book, I rework my fixed spell slot, swapping out greased heels for Eye of Inspection so I can grind its level instead. Every time I cast it, I understand the spell more deeply. Most mages spend years just learning to cast a spell properly from a scroll, but I skip straight past that, instinctively improving the spell structure to better match my own mana and mental rhythm. Normally, this kind of refinement takes a mage 10, 20, even decades to figure out. For me, it just feels natural. When something feels slightly off during casting, I adjust it on instinct. By the third time through my alchemy book, I create an upgraded version of Eye of Inspection. It gains a new feature, lock perspective. Before, the spy eye would lose connection and blur out past 100 meters. Now I can lock onto a specific eye and control it clearly from kilometers away. Closing my eyes, I focus and immediately lock onto a faint blue glow in the darkness, the spy eye hidden in Carson's right eye. The moment I connect, I'm seeing through his eyes. Tonight, Carson is staying at Sir Ralph's night estate, the two of them talking quietly. Carson shows Ralph a letter that arrived from Steward Fulluin, treating it as the perfect opportunity. He tells Ralph that with Viscount Kevin backing them, if they play their cards right, Ralph could earn a knighthood title and maybe rise even further from there. Ralph's breathing quickens at the idea. His whole life, he's groomed himself to look noble, hoping one day to actually become one. A knighthood title isn't true nobility, but it's a real step up from being just another knight. If he could please Viscount Kevin and get land of his own, he might finally climb into the noble class for real. Blinded by ambition, Ralph asks what their plan actually is. Carson explains, "I'm desperate for money right now, so they'll lend it to me. When I inevitably can't pay it back, they'll demand my territory as repayment instead." Ralph objects immediately. Transferring land without the king's permission is illegal. But Carson waves this off, saying it only matters if the king finds out, and reminds him that Viscount Kevin answers to Count Weddleborough, whose influence in the north is significant enough to make problems disappear. Ralph warms up to the idea once he realizes it's actually workable. He asks what happens if I actually manage to pay the loan back. Carson laughs darkly and promises I won't. Lending money at brutal interest rates is basically his whole business. Many people in nearby villages already owe him money and have been forced into serfdom because of hidden tricks buried in his loan contracts. He plans to do the same thing to me, slowly trapping me in debt until I have nothing left. Listening to all this from miles away, lying comfortably in my own bed, I can't help laughing out loud too. I don't catch every word of their conversation, but between the letter and what I overhear, I piece together their whole plan easily. I find it almost funny. Trying to trap me using a shady loan contract is such an old, common trick among nobles. It usually only works on landless or struggling nobles, not someone like my family with actual soldiers and territory. Normally, a small-time merchant and a disgraced knight wouldn't dare try this against a baron with real military backing. But given how desperate my territory currently looks for money, I understand why they think they have an opening here. Since my land genuinely needs money right now, and they're offering to hand me cash on a silver platter, I have absolutely no reason to refuse their loan. It's almost too convenient. Exactly what I needed, delivered right to my door. Smiling to myself, I close my alchemy book and realize I've finally mastered it completely. The entire book is now permanently locked into my memory. I take a sip of healing potion just to test something, and afterward, I write down a list of ingredients on parchment: silverleaf thistle, clotting moss, and a few others, along with rough measurements, just from tasting the potion alone. My mastery of alchemy now lets me reverse engineer recipes just by sampling them, which feels incredibly useful. I plan to hand this list to the doctor so he can gather the ingredients. Even without a proper recipe to follow, I figure I can experiment myself. Even if it doesn't work perfectly, at least I'll gain experience trying. The next morning, two sturdy, broad-shouldered maids help me get ready. My old mental image of delicate, pretty maids is basically shattered by now. Out here in this remote territory, function clearly matters more than appearance when hiring staff. Ed arrives right on schedule to brief me on today's plans. With the territory in such a critical state, I know I need to personally oversee everything, or risk my orders getting ignored or twisted by people below me. After making my usual rounds through town, I meet with the doctor, collect 2 more jars of eyeballs from him, and hand over the ingredient list I wrote last night, telling him to gather everything on it for me. He nods eagerly, calling me his great lord, and immediately gets to work. After finishing my rounds through town, I head back to the castle. I barely sit down before Ed reports that Ralph and Carson have shown up again. I tell him to let them in. They're basically my walking treasure chests at this point. I ask Ed if my invitation to Sir Ken went out yet. He confirms a servant already left to fetch him. Satisfied, I put on a surprised, welcoming expression and take my seat at the head of the hall. Ralph walks in with Carson and a young, cocky-looking man trailing behind them. Ralph drops to one knee immediately, all humility now, as if yesterday's arrogance never happened. I wave it off politely and turn my attention to the young man behind him, his son, Ian. I compliment him, telling him he looks strong and will surely become a fine knight like his father someday. Ian lights up with pride. Ralph beams too, though I can tell underneath it he still sees my kindness as nothing more than a clumsy attempt to win him over. Barely worth his attention compared to the bigger prize he's after. Ralph gets straight to business, saying he heard from Carson that I'm struggling financially. He claims he was so worried he barely slept, and after talking it over with his son Ian, who apparently has connections to a wealthy noble in the city, and consulting with Carson, they've decided to generously offer me a loan to help me through this rough patch. Carson immediately backs him up, claiming the same sleepless night of concern led him to the same decision. Of course, the wealthy noble friend is completely made up. The money is really just theirs, dressed up with a fake excuse so I don't get suspicious. Ed can't help interrupting, warning me not to trust these shameless merchants. I cut him off sharply, pretending to be annoyed, and tell him to stay quiet. I have this handled. Ed plays along, lowering his head reluctantly, since we'd already planned this little act beforehand. Seeing Ed get scolded only makes Carson and Ralph more eager. They're worried I have a smart advisor who might catch on to their scheme, so they want to lock me into this deal fast. Carson rushes to offer 1,000 gold coins, presenting the loan contract. I look it over and see the interest rate is set at just 20%, much lower than the usual 50% or higher predatory rates out there. I don't fully understand all the legal tricks hidden in it, but I glance over it and complain that 1,000 gold isn't really enough. Both of them practically roll their eyes. 1,000 gold isn't exactly pocket change. Ed jumps in, asking to look at the contract more closely, which makes Carson and Ralph sweat nervously, worried he'll spot the trap. Carson quickly offers another 500. I keep pushing, and eventually Carson cracks and offers another full 1,000, his voice strained with how much it pains him. I switch instantly to a delighted smile, grabbing a quill and staring expectantly at both of them until they reluctantly send for even more gold. Carson is dying inside. He's basically emptying every coin he brought with him. I happen to know exactly how much cash he's carrying, since he counts his money out loud every night before bed, and I've been quietly listening through my spy eye. Once servants haul in 2 heavy chests of gold, I finally sign the contract, not that I ever plan to repay it, and toss it over to Carson. He treats the signed paper like a treasure, already imagining how he'll use it to drain my territory dry once I default. While they're both lost in their little fantasy, completely missing the amusement flickering behind my eyes, a servant announces that Sir Ken has arrived. I have him sent in. Ken strides in, and the moment he spots Ralph and Carson, his face twists with obvious disgust, though he holds his tongue out of respect for me. He kneels and formally asks for my orders. I gesture for him to sit, then turn to Ralph, telling them both I have something important to discuss. Carson immediately excuses himself. Now that he has his precious contract, he wants nothing more to do with this castle. Every visit here has cost him dearly. Ralph, still a little nervous after just scamming me, sits down carefully and watches me. I put on a heavy, troubled expression and tell them both that the recent goblin attacks on our villages have been weighing on me. For the sake of my people, I've decided to gather both knights and our soldiers to drive these pests off our land for good. Ralph thinks privately that wasting our limited soldiers on goblins for the sake of peasants is foolish. Surely Ken won't agree to this either. I will gladly serve you, my lord. Ken answers without a moment's hesitation, and Ralph's expression freezes on the spot. Ralph stares at Ken in disbelief, like he's hearing things. He remembers Ken as a proud, stubborn knight who answers to no one easily. He has no idea that Ken watched me heal a wound and roast a boar with fire magic, so he can't understand why Ken's suddenly so loyal. I smile, pleased with the reaction, and announce this will be my first real battle as ruler of this land. I declare that whoever performs best in this fight will earn a knighthood under House Thorn, and that both knights will receive generous rewards too if they do well. Ralph's eyes light up at the mention of money. Who wouldn't want a reward? But it's Ian, standing behind him, whose eyes practically burn with excitement at the word knighthood. Becoming a real knight is his actual dream, and hearing me say it out loud sets his ambition on fire. Yes, my lord, Ian shouts, loud enough to startle his own father. Ralph doesn't object. Having his son knighted would bring him honor too, on top of any reward money. I walk over and pat Ian's shoulder, telling him I have high hopes for him, that I want him to be the very first knight I personally raise up. He flushes with pride at my words, completely unaware that as I touch him, a thread of my mana is quietly working its way into his left eye, planting another spy eye without him noticing. After they leave, I check my quest log and find a new quest has appeared: Suppress the Goblins, medium difficulty, with a base reward of 100 gold and a perception fragment. I didn't expect this simple announcement to trigger an actual quest. I realize quests seem tied to real danger, which tells me these goblins might be more dangerous than I assumed. Good. That makes things interesting. 3 days pass. Thanks to my spending, the territory is already buzzing back to life. While training in the courtyard, Ed comes to tell me Ken and Ralph have gathered the troops and are ready to move out. I stop training and let a maid wipe the sweat off me. Checking my panel, I see my disarming strike technique has hit max level, and my basic swordsmanship has maxed out too. Turns out the game oddly counts disarming practice as part of basic swordsmanship training, so I leveled both at once without meaning to. In the same stretch of time, I also pushed my alchemy skill to max. Thanks to my magic-enhanced body, I barely need 4 hours of sleep to function at full strength, letting me learn at a pace that would take normal geniuses months or years, and that an average person might never reach in a lifetime. I can even taste a healing potion now and immediately guess the exact ingredients and ratios used to make it. Incredibly useful, though I haven't had time to actually test it with the doctor yet. As I head toward my room, I ask Ed if he's found the materials I requested, specific types of clay and stone. He confirms he's sent 2 groups out searching, one asking local merchants, another exploring an abandoned mine to the west, and expects news soon. He's clearly confused about why I want plain clay and marble when the territory already has over 2,000 gold and doesn't need to scrounge for cheap materials, but he trusts my judgment enough not to question it. Secretly, I'm hoping to recreate cement, and if that works, concrete too. If I can pull this off, it would massively boost our defenses, and since this world apparently still has the concept of patents even in this medieval setting, a brand new building material could make me very rich. Feeling good about my plans, I dress in fine clothes and walk out with Ed to address the assembled troops: 40 militia, 23 soldiers, 2 knights, and several squires. After 2 days of build-up, everyone knows what's at stake. I announce one more incentive. Whoever kills the most goblins gets an extra 10 gold coins, a literal decade's income for a farming family. The soldiers practically explode with excitement, shouting their loyalty. Privately, I wonder if the quest will still count toward me even if I don't personally fight. I shout the order to march, and nearly 100 soldiers head off toward the goblin-infested forest, which is still a fair distance from the castle. Once they're gone, I figure I have time to handle something else, paying my dear Uncle Carson a visit. I switch my fixed spell back to greased heels, change out of my fine clothes into plain farmer's clothing, and rub dirt on my face to hide my features. Meanwhile, Carson had already fled back to his home in Gau's village 2 days ago, scared and broke, hoping to hide out until Viscount Kevin can step in and settle things by transferring my land over to him. The journey took him 2 full days by carriage. He has no idea that I, moving fast thanks to my spell, have already arrived at the edge of Gau's village. Wind rushes past my ears as I push my greased heels spell to its limit, covering in minutes what took Carson's group 2 full days to travel. I wrap myself in plain clothes and walk into the gloomy village ahead, easily tracking Carson's location through the faint mana signature of the spy eye still buried in him. I activate Eye of Inspection and link into his vision. Back home in his own territory, Carson is nothing like the nervous, fearful man I saw in my castle. Here, he's cruel and confident, sitting above a group of ragged farmers, demanding they pay back debts they can never realistically afford. When they can't pay, he casually threatens to cut a pound of flesh from each of them instead, clearly enjoying every second of their terror. This is the real Carson, a petty tyrant who's been taking out his frustration from our encounters by torturing his own villagers. While the farmers tremble in fear, I climb over the estate wall undetected, gaining a bit of stealth experience in the process. Unfortunately, the head guard, a retired adventurer Carson hired, happens to spot me the moment I land. He laughs at the idea of a masked thief breaking in during broad daylight and draws his sword, intending to teach me a lesson. The instant he gets close, I draw my blade and use disarming strike, knocking his sword clean out of his hand. Before he can react, I follow up instantly with fire arrow, point blank. He barely has time to register what's happening before the spell takes his head off. I finish him with my dagger just to be sure, then keep moving without looking back. Since I'm clearly not a trained assassin trying to stay hidden, I decide there's no point sneaking around anymore. I walk right up to the next guard I see and ask him plainly where Carson's wife and children are staying. Too stunned to think clearly, he points me toward the back of the estate without hesitation. I thank him and move on. Strangely, none of the other guards stop me. None of them know if I'm someone Carson personally invited or an actual intruder, and they're too scared of getting in trouble either way, so they all quietly look the other way and pretend not to notice me. When I reach the section of the house where Carson's wife and son live, a guard finally tries to stop me, ordering me to halt. I knock him out with one punch before he can finish the sentence and step over his unconscious body. Inside, I find Carson's wife and his son, Carney. I greet her casually, but she screams immediately and calls for the guards. Not liking her reaction, I press my dagger to her throat instead, which terrifies Carney completely. He'd apparently just come home from forcing himself on a local farmer's daughter and barely had time to relax before walking into this nightmare. He tries to beg for mercy, but I'm not in the mood to talk. I break all 4 of his limbs with a few quick stomps, then drag him along using my mage hand, now maxed out and powerful enough to easily haul his weight with my growing mana. Back where Carson is, he's still busy tormenting the farmers, forcing them to hold knives to their own bodies, threatening to make it 2 pounds of flesh instead of 1 if they hesitate any longer. The terrified farmers close their eyes, preparing to cut themselves out of pure desperation. Then a scream rings out from outside the door, breaking the moment. Annoyed at the interruption, Carson turns toward the noise just as the heavy oak door explodes into splinters from a powerful kick. I step through, dragging Carney behind me. Carson, never having faced anything like this before, screams for his head guard to capture the intruder, but no one answers. The guard's body, still warm, lies quietly in the corner where I left him. "Father, save me!" Carney screams weakly, his limbs broken, dragged in a bloody mess. Carson jumps up from his chair in panic, but the fear in his gut freezes him in place when he sees me standing there with my dagger. With his head guard nowhere in sight, he tries to sound tough anyway, demanding to know what I want. I just shake my head calmly and tell him, quietly, that having him gone matters more to me than anything he could offer. He doesn't understand. No robber refuses money and accuses me of toying with him. The moment he finishes the sentence, I drive my dagger straight through Carney's throat. Blood sprays from his neck, and within seconds, he's silent forever. Carson collapses to the floor, drained of all strength. Grief over his son barely registers compared to the pure terror flooding through him. He realizes children can be replaced, but his own life clearly can't be. Through his panic, something clicks. My build, my voice, they're familiar. You're Lore H. My eyes. Before he can finish my name, his eyeball squirms and rips itself out of its socket like a living worm, the spy eye finally tearing free. The servants nearby scramble into corners, too horrified to come close. The pain alone stops him from finishing my name. I walk over calmly and slice his throat open with my dagger. Blood pours out uncontrollably. Dying, he clutches his throat, his one remaining eye locked on me in disbelief. I lean down and whisper in his ear that I wasn't joking earlier. Having him gone really does matter to me. Hearing the word, "Uncle," he tries weakly to struggle, but his body gives out within seconds, leaving him to die with nothing but bitter regret and silent curses aimed at me. Once he's dead, I grab a set of keys off his body and head straight for his treasure room. Typical of him. The first thing he did when he got home was count his money before going off to torment the village. I'd already seen all of this happen through my spy eye, which makes finding it now effortless. The treasure room has an iron door and 3-foot-thick marble walls. I unlock it easily and step inside his private little kingdom. Chests stacked high with coins, neat scrolls of loan contracts and land deeds lining the shelves, plus jeweled daggers, ivory statues, silver goblets, and other expensive trinkets he's collected over the years. This room was basically his second life. There's too much to carry right now, so I just grabbed the loan contract I signed and burned it to ash in my palm with a flick of fire. Then I locked the door behind me and cast eye of inspection again to check in on Ed. Already on his way with 23 armed soldiers, Ed feels the spy eye twitch in his pocket. He pulls it out nervously, bowing slightly even though it's just an eyeball, and confirms they've nearly arrived. The eye bobs once in response, and Ed quickly tucks it away again, visibly unsettled. He never imagined mages could be this unsettling to be around. He pushes the soldiers to move faster. Officially, they're just visiting Carson to thank him for the generous loan he gave me. If they happen to discover his entire family was murdered along the way, well, naturally I'd step in to take care of the funeral arrangements and manage his household out of respect. And naturally, as his nephew, I'd inherit everything left behind. All perfectly reasonable. Even thinking it through, Ed feels a chill down his spine. In my eyes, Carson's scheming was nothing more than a clown act. With this windfall, repairing the castle will be easy, and restoring the whole territory to its former glory feels within reach. Meanwhile, I've already slipped out of the village in the chaos, leaving the rest to Ed. Now I need to deal with Ralph's family too. There's a bonus, though. I'm holding 2 letters proving Carson and Ralph's full conspiracy against me. Knowing Carson, I bet he kept them deliberately, just in case Ralph ever tried to back out. Insurance to keep him in line. That insurance is now mine. I'd originally planned to fake Ralph's entire family dying during the goblin raid, but now I don't need to bother being subtle. I link into my other spy eye, watching the forest scene unfold. Ian, deep in the woods with the search party, looks thrilled, leading the charge and scanning eagerly for goblins. The moment he steps into a thicket, a goblin lunges out, swinging a fist-sized mace straight into his side. Even through his armor, Ian grunts in pain. Furious, he swings his sword and cleaves the scrawny goblin clean in half. The other goblins nearby panic, hurling rocks and swinging broken weapons at him, but their attacks barely scratch his armor. Ian swings again and again, cutting them down like wheat, and the surviving goblins shriek and flee in terror. Watching his enemies break and run only fuels his excitement further, making him feel more powerful than ever. Watching through my spy eye, I see Ian get swept up in bloodlust, charging recklessly after fleeing goblins, ignoring his father Ralph's shouted warnings. Ralph is annoyed at the disobedience, but doesn't worry much. Regular goblins shouldn't be able to hurt someone in full armor. Meanwhile, Ken suggests splitting the troops to surround the goblin den, which Ralph happily agrees to since the 2 knights already dislike each other. What Ralph doesn't realize is that while Ken lets the militia handle scattered goblins, he secretly has a few loyal men quietly trailing behind Ralph's group instead. Deep in the woods, Ian finally catches up to the goblin he's chasing and throws his sword, killing it cleanly. Thrilled, thinking he's one step closer to becoming a knight, he steps forward to retrieve his weapon, and a massive shadow falls over him. A creature over 2 meters tall bursts out of the bushes, covered in thick black fur, wearing torn armor, and reeking horribly. Worse, it's wearing human fingers and ears as grisly trophies. I can't help commenting with genuine interest from where I'm watching. This isn't a normal goblin. It's a bear goblin, meaning this tribe is way bigger and more dangerous than expected. Ian freezes in terror, completely unprepared for something this large. As he tries to back away and grab his sword, sudden agonizing pain explodes in his left eye. The spy eye I planted earlier violently tears itself free. He screams, collapsing to his knees, unable to even reach his eye through his helmet. The bear goblin shows no mercy, swinging its spiked mace straight into Ian's chest. The blow sends him flying backward into a tree, cracking several ribs. Dazed and desperate, pure survival instinct takes over. He scrambles up and runs, screaming for his father. The bear goblin, a natural hunter, catches up to him in just a few strides and slams another devastating blow into his back, sending him flying again. Only his armor saves him from instant death. Ralph hears his son's screams and goes berserk, abandoning his troops and charging through the forest like a raging bull, smashing through trees in his path. He arrives just as the bear goblin is ripping off Ian's helmet, ready to feast. Apparently humans taste especially good to these creatures. Ralph slams into the bear goblin with frenzied fury, knocking it away from his son just before it can finish him. He scoops up Ian, checking his bloodied face with real concern. Ian mumbles weakly about pain in his eye, barely conscious, while Ralph, assuming the goblin gouged it out, grabs his sword and charges back in for revenge. Despite his small stature, Ralph fights with shocking strength, punching the bear goblin's weapon clean out of its grip and slicing deep into its shoulder. The beast roars in pain, and the two collide in brutal close combat. From the shadows, I emerge calmly with Ken and a few loyal knights behind me. Ken quietly asks if we should step in to help. I tell him no. Instead, let's lure more goblins toward Ralph, giving him a proper outlet for his rage while making things easier for us. Ken understands immediately and looks to his men. One squire, Finn, eagerly volunteers. Ken hesitates slightly, clearly worried, but lets him go anyway to draw the goblin's attention. I watch the fight unfold like a show. Ralph's armor dents and cracks under the bear goblin's relentless blows, but somehow this small, stocky man holds his ground, eventually leaping onto the creature's back and tearing its massive head clean off with brute force. An impressively gruesome display that almost makes me want to applaud. Before Ralph can even catch his breath, more goblins arrive. Over 20 elite goblins riding wolves, plus a couple more bear goblins acting like guards. Ralph's breath catches in his throat. Where did all these enemies suddenly come from? Glancing at his immobile son, he grits his teeth, grabs a fallen mace, and charges back into the fight anyway. I turn to Ken, impressed. That squire of yours really knows how to draw a crowd. What's his name? Ken answers respectfully that Finn is his own son. I praise Finn warmly, and the young man's face flushes with pride. He kneels immediately, declaring it's his duty to serve me. I tell him he's a fine knight, and he understands exactly what I mean. He shouts back that he'd gladly die for me if it came to that. I laugh it off, telling him there's no need to be so dramatic, and that we should just enjoy the show. There's no rush to hide. Ralph is far too busy to notice us watching from the shadows anyway. Ralph is drowning in the goblin swarm, fighting desperately. He shouts toward the noise in the distance, begging Sir Ralph's voice to be heard. I am Sir Ralph. Come help me. He's sure he hears laughter mixed with shouting nearby, which gives him hope, even as he keeps fighting. At my signal, Finn calls back. Who's there? Ralph lights up, thinking reinforcements are finally coming, shouting that he's surrounded and needs help immediately. But right then, a heavy goblin hammer slams into his skull, drawing blood from his mouth and nose. The goblins swarm him from every side. If not for the family potion that hardened his body like stone years ago, he'd already be dead several times over. Believing help is on the way, Ralph decides to fight with everything he has, abandoning all defense, swinging his mace like a whirlwind. He crushes a bear goblin's skull and sends several wolf riders flying with broken bones. The voice calls out again, claiming they're almost there, just clearing a few goblins blocking the path. Ralph, who had briefly considered abandoning his unconscious son to save himself, finds new strength in this hope. Admitting cowardice later would destroy his reputation as a noble knight. If he holds on just a little longer, he believes he'll be remembered as the hero of this battle, deserving of his own knight's territory as a reward. Fueled by this fantasy, Ralph cuts down several more elite goblins. But his excitement doesn't last. He soon realizes the voice keeps calling from the exact same spot, never actually getting closer. Worse, a large goblin spellcaster joins the enemy ranks, wielding an oak staff. Watching from a distance, I sense something powerful radiating from this goblin. Mana strength roughly equal to what I had as an apprentice mage. This goblin is clearly the tribe's true leader, a real spellcaster. Fighting it myself wouldn't be hard one-on-one, but with the terrain and the rest of the goblin horde around, clearing this whole area alone could take me a full week. Lucky for me, Ralph is doing all the heavy lifting. Even someone as dense as Ralph eventually realizes the truth. There is no reinforcement. Can set this whole thing up to get rid of him. Panicking, he glances at his son Ian, still barely breathing, and decides he has no choice but to abandon him and retreat. Just as Ralph starts backing away, fighting his way out, the goblin spellcaster raises its staff and fires a sickly green beam that strikes Ralph square in the back. A strange green mist creeps across his skin. At first, nothing happens, but moments later, nausea and weakness hit him hard. He's been poisoned. His tough body keeps him standing, but in a fight this brutal, even a small drop in strength could be fatal. Seeing the moment is right, I give the order and place my hand on Ken. I cast Greased Heels on him, boosting his speed by nearly a third. Ken, impressed, activates his own ability, Blood Burn, turning his skin a fiery red as crimson flames flicker across his body, pushing his combat level up to rank 3 temporarily. Ken charges in, his sword wreathed in burning crimson light, aimed straight at Ralph. Ralph screams in confusion, raising his weapon to block. Too late. Ken's flaming blade slices clean through both his mace and his arm in one stroke, the attack carrying through nearly 10 meters, slicing apart several bear goblins and elite goblins in its path. The effort drains Ken immediately afterward, dropping him back to rank 2. He's too old to sustain that potion's power for long, but it was enough. Ralph, missing an arm now, is thrown aside by the force of the blow. Clutching the stump, he screams in disbelief that I'm Lord Thorn's knight too, accusing Ken of betrayal. Ken just stares down at him coldly. Only now do you remember you're our Lord's knight, Ralph? With the goblin spellcaster's attention fully locked on this fight, I slip in from behind. My mage hand materializes, gripping a blade and swinging it at the spellcaster, while I unleash everything I have with both hands, combining Disarming Strike with Fire Arrow at the same time. Teamwork between myself really pays off. My blade knocks the staff clean out of its grip, and in the same instant, several fire arrows slam into its exposed back. It bursts into flame instantly, dying before it can even scream. I catch the falling oak staff out of the air as the fire dies down. Silence falls over the battlefield. The surviving goblins, already cowardly creatures by nature, completely lose their will to fight once their leader is dead. They scatter in terror like startled hornets, and I let my men finish them off instead of chasing. Ralph's own troops finally arrive on the scene, confused by everything they're witnessing. I pull out the letters I recovered and address the crowd directly. Ralph, you dared betray your oath as my knight. You conspired with my treacherous Uncle Carson to steal my land. Together, you raised grain prices and ran predatory loans that drove my people to ruin, forcing them to sell their own wives and daughters just to survive. As of today, I strip you of your knighthood. You will be taken back in chains to await my judgment. My voice rings out across the battlefield, confident and commanding, and the crowd believes every word, because it's all true. Many of the militiamen here were victims of Ralph and Carson's schemes themselves. With their baron declaring Ralph guilty, no one doubts it for a second. Punish Ralph. Long live Lord Thorn, Finn shouts, instantly igniting the crowd's emotions. Everyone glares at Ralph, cursing him while praising my wisdom and greatness. No one doubts a word I said, especially the militia, who feel like I just stood up for them personally. To them, I'm basically a hero. Ralph, missing an arm now, can only point at me in furious silence, finally realizing he was played from the start. He's seething with hatred, desperate to kill me on the spot, but poisoned, badly wounded, and crippled, he can barely even stand, let alone fight. I order my men to bind Ralph and bring him back to the castle. I announce that everyone shares in today's victory and deserves a reward. 5 silver coins for every soldier and squire. The militia, most of whom barely fought any goblins themselves, light up with excitement, looking at me like I'm a saint. Their gratitude bursts out in one familiar chant. We can never repay Lord Thorn's kindness. Ken leads the remaining troops to finish off the retreating goblin tribe, while I head back to town with a few militiamen, escorting Ian's body and the unconscious Ralph. I don't even need to say anything. The men start spreading exaggerated stories about Ralph's crimes on their own, the rumors growing wilder with each retelling until people start claiming Ralph conspired with Carson to assassinate me directly. I don't know about any of this yet. I'm too busy ransacking Ralph's house. Compared to Carson, Ralph turns out to be much less wealthy. Searching his home myself, I only find a few hundred gold coins, surprisingly little for a knighted man with his position. Suspicious, I turn to his terrified wife, kneeling on the floor, and gently remind her that if she wants to see her husband and son again, she should tell me everything she knows. She breaks down immediately, confessing that most of his money went toward buying strange materials, not savings. Curious, I have her show me where they're stored. The list includes ingredients I don't recognize, some not even covered in my alchemy book. He'd even spent a fortune, close to 1,000 gold, on special sealed storage containers just to preserve them properly. It clicks for me. Ralph wasn't just hoarding ingredients randomly. He was likely trying to recreate the same potion that gave him his stone-tough body in the first place. I order the servants to tear the house apart and find everything suspicious. Thinking it through, I remember Kin mentioning that his blood burn potion was originally given to him by my father. That means my family likely has its own line of inherited potions, probably the true legacy of House Thorn. The problem is, my father never told me about any of this. He must have only shared it with my older brother, and now they're both gone, leaving me with nothing. My only option now is searching the castle myself for any leftover clues. While I'm trying to recall anything useful from memory, my quest log pings. The Goblin Suppression quest just auto-completed at 100%. I received the base reward of 100 gold and a perception fragment, plus bonus rewards of 300 gold, another perception fragment, and a new trait called Dark Vision. That gives me exactly 3 perception fragments, enough to combine into a full point. The moment I merge them, my perception jumps from 13 to 14, a small number on paper, but the difference feels massive, like crossing some invisible threshold. My senses sharpen dramatically, and combined with my new dark vision trait, I can now see clearly even in pitch-black rooms. Scanning the dim storage room with my new vision, I notice something off about one of the bricks. It looks slightly raised. I tap it a few times, confirm it's hiding a secret compartment, and instinctively reach to pry it open. Right then, my vigilance trait flares up, warning me something's wrong. I jump back several steps and use my mage hand instead to pull the brick free. The moment it comes loose, a hidden trap triggers. 2 poison darts shoot out, harmlessly hitting my floating hand instead of me. Annoyed at the dirty trick, I cautiously have my mage hand retrieve the iron box hidden inside and open it. Inside is a faded scroll of parchment. Just to be safe, I send my spy eye over first to read it from a distance before touching it myself. What I find makes me grin uncontrollably. It's the full recipe for the stone skin potion, complete with detailed notes on the brewing process. Between Carson's fortune and this recipe, today has been an incredible haul. I memorized the recipe completely, then have my mage hand carefully pack it up for the servants to carry back to the castle. With Ralph's estate fully searched, my quest progress for restoring the territory jumps to 93%. I could finish it now, but I decide to take my time. The remaining gap is likely because my influence hasn't fully reached every village yet, since some are still under the control of local bullies or corrupt landlords I haven't dealt with. Every single person in this territory needs to know I'm their one true lord. After gathering up everything I've taken, I head back to the castle. By sunset, Kin returns with the troops, dragging a string of goblin heads behind them. A true victory parade. Villagers along the road and everyone in town witness the proud display of House Thorn's strength firsthand. True to my word, I hand out the promised rewards generously. After looting 2 households in one day, money is the least of my worries now. I publicly knight Finn as well, further strengthening the forces loyal to me. After hosting a big feast at the castle, I send troops the next day to patrol every village in my territory. Within 2 days, the quest auto-completes, giving me a solid base reward of gold and charm fragments, plus a generous bonus including a charm trinket and a random skill upgrade. My alchemy apprentice trait suddenly upgrades into potion apprentice, boosting my talent specifically in potion making. The timing couldn't be better. I've just borrowed brewing equipment from the doctor and am attempting to make healing potions myself. After yet another failed batch, this new trait suddenly opens my mind to a fresh approach. I realize I've been trying to copy the original potion exactly, assuming it required real magic in its creation. Instead, I decide to simplify the recipe completely, sacrificing some potency for something easier to make, while adding extra ingredients to extend how long the effect lasts, compensating for the weaker strength. Working with the herbs in front of me, I suddenly feel like I can sense the life force within each one. I squeeze out their juices, mix them with magic water, boil everything down, then set it using animal gelatin. After more than 10 failed attempts, I finally succeed, sort of. The panel labels my creation a questionable healing salve, with effects listed as may heal wounds when applied externally. Effects unknown if ingested. Frustrated by the vague description, I decide I need a test subject. I check the charm trinket I earned. It lets me cast a low-tier charm spell 3 times a day. Pretty useful and worth a decent amount if I ever wanted to sell it. I put it on, then call a servant over, handing them my mystery healing salve with simple instructions. Try it both externally and internally on Ralph, and report back the results. The servant looks terrified, clearly suspecting it might be poison, but carefully heads down to the dungeon where Ralph hangs barely alive, looking like a smoked duck. I haven't killed him yet. Figured I might as well get some use out of him first. Once the servant leaves, I settle into my chair and think about what's next. The territory is finally stabilizing, which means I can finally step back and let things run themselves a bit. It's time to head back to Valar Academy. That's where my real focus needs to be. Counting my finances, after setting aside enough to keep the territory running smoothly, I can personally take about 4,000 gold coins with me. I'm genuinely wealthy now. Controlling the territory's finances really does make a difference. A lot of this credit goes to Uncle Carson, whose loan contracts and land deeds turned out to be an absolute goldmine. Using those documents alone, I managed to bring nearly 500 farmers from Gaz Village over to Northwind Town. All I had to offer them was bread, hot water, and proper housing, and now they work harder than oxen out of sheer gratitude. Searching through every corner of the castle, I finally find the recipe for the blood-burn potion hidden in a secret compartment in my father's old room. Unfortunately, like the stoneskin potion recipe, this one's a true high-tier potion, far above something simple like a healing salve. Since I haven't even mastered basic healing potions yet, there's no point trying these advanced ones right now. Just then, Ed walks in, beaming with good news. Our soldiers have grown to 60 strong. The flood-damaged salt works are rebuilt, and the clay and marble I asked for have been found near an old abandoned mine that my father used to use. Then he mentions a letter has arrived from the Anderson family. I'm confused. The Andersons are another hereditary baron family, located over 1,000 miles from here. Why would they write to me? Ed explains they have a marriage arrangement with our family. Confused, I ask if it's about me. He clarifies, no, it was for my older brother. My interest, briefly sparked, immediately deflates. My father arranged a fiancée for my brother and never bothered telling me. Ed adds that the engagement was set up just 3 months ago. She's officially his fiancée, not yet his wife. That distinction matters a lot, legally. If my brother had actually married her before he died, inheritance law would have allowed his wife to claim the title and land instead of me, meaning some woman I've never met could have become baron instead. I open the letter, trying not to laugh at the timing. Engaged for barely any time before my brother died. The letter is from Ivy Anderson, my almost sister-in-law. She clearly hasn't fully processed her fiancé's death, and between the lines, I can sense some lingering resentment, some directed at my brother, some seemingly at me too. Because news travels slowly, she'd actually sent 2 letters. The first reached the academy after I'd already left for home, so this second one followed me here instead. After expressing some concern and offering condolences, she asks if we could meet in person. Tucked inside the letter is a Walls banking note worth 200 gold coins, redeemable at any bank or merchant guild in the kingdom. For an unmarried young woman, that's a serious chunk of her own personal savings, showing she's genuinely sincere about wanting to talk. I don't mind meeting her, though I need to think about where. After considering it, I write back suggesting we meet at Valar Academy instead, since I'm about to head back there anyway. By the time my letter reaches her and she sets out, I'll likely already be back at school waiting. After replying to Ivy's letter, I head straight for the territory's abandoned mine. It used to be a copper mine, abandoned sometime during my father's rule for reasons I don't know. The moment I step inside, I spot limestone scattered across the ground, and nearby, I find the clay I need too. Perfect. Now I have everything to try making cement. I have my servants build a kiln right there and instruct them to mix limestone and clay at roughly a 4-to-1 ratio, with a pinch of iron powder, then fire it as hot as possible. I leave the blacksmith in charge of monitoring the heat. With that handled, I turn my attention to the dark tunnel ahead. If there's still leftover copper down there, it would be worth checking out myself. Thanks to my dark vision trait and light spell, the darkness doesn't bother me at all. I draw my oak staff and carefully tap along the walls and old support beams as I go, memorizing which spots look unstable. Moving slowly and carefully, I tap the wall again. This time the hollow echo is followed by a chilling, skittering sound, like dozens of legs scuttling across stone. A swarm of fist-sized black spiders pours out from the darkness ahead, some as big as wash basins. Cave spiders. I recognize them immediately as they surge toward me, their compound eyes glinting eerily. I retreat quickly and pull out a flask of oil I always carry, specifically meant to boost my fire arrow's power. I throw the flask, then cast fire arrow, igniting the oil in a blinding flash that lights up the whole tunnel. The spiders shriek. Some curl up and burn, others scatter, but a few charge straight at me. Good, I want this. I use my mage hand to grab the attacking spiders while slicing them open with my sword. The moment one hits the ground, my mage hand tears it open and pulls out its venom gland. After harvesting 8 glands this way, the remaining spiders finally scatter and flee. Stepping over their bodies, I keep moving deeper, thinking the sticky glands might actually be useful in my healing salve recipe. I figure I'll trust the instinct. Worst case, Ralph dies testing it, and I just tweak the formula. Eventually, I reach the abandoned end of the mine and pass a few discarded mine carts, finally understanding why this place was shut down. Glowing moss lights the path ahead, revealing something incredible, an underground world of jagged stone formations stretching out before me. This world apparently really does have an underworld beneath it, a massive space rivaling the surface, home to creatures like deep dwarves and dark elves, full of valuable resources, but extremely dangerous. This part of the mine sits close to that underworld, maybe just a few hundred meters from breaking through completely. I drop down into this space and touch the nearby rock wall. The mana radiating from it is far stronger than any normal mineral vein. This is mana stone, a rare material packed with magical energy, used to fuel advanced steam-powered machinery. Deposits like this usually come with gold, silver, copper, and iron nearby too. I've genuinely struck it rich. The only real problem now is how to mine it safely, and more importantly, how to keep it secret. If any noble found out I had access to mana stone, they'd come after it immediately. It's considered a strategic resource. Selling it openly would attract serious scrutiny. For now, I decide to quietly mine the gold and copper instead, and figure out the mana stone situation later. Running my hand along the glowing wall, feeling almost giddy at the thought of all this potential wealth, I suddenly feel every hair on my body stand on end. Something's wrong. I instinctively step back several paces, staring warily at a large boulder nearby that looks completely ordinary, just like dozens of other rocks scattered around the cave floor. I can't figure out why my vigilance trait is warning me about a plain-looking rock. Using my mage hand, I tap it cautiously from 10 meters away. It sounds exactly like stone should sound. Looks like stone, sounds like stone, but something tells me it isn't. Then it moves. Cracks spread across the boulder's surface as it suddenly shifts shape, a hard shell-like exterior forming, and 2 massive claws, one bigger than the other, burst out from underneath. A creature nearly 2 meters tall, somewhere between a rock and a lobster, rises up and stands before me on 2 legs. A rock shrimp. I recognize the species immediately. A full-grown one has strength and defense rivaling Ralph's stone skin enhanced combat ability. Worse, they're known to live in colonies. The disturbed rock shrimp lets out a low groan. Looking around, I realize what I mistook for ordinary boulders scattered across the cave floor are actually dozens of these creatures, all beginning to stir and reveal their limbs and claws. There must be at least 50 of them. Even with my entire army, taking on this many of these absurdly tough creatures would be a losing battle. The smartest move would be to avoid provoking them entirely. Luckily, rock shrimp are slow, low intelligence, and not very aggressive. Even standing just 10 meters away, none of them show any interest in attacking me. Knowing their value and temperament, a bold idea starts forming in my mind. I watch the rock shrimp colony with growing excitement, knowing their true value won't even be discovered by the wider world for years to come. Inside each one beats a stone crystal, their actual heart, packed with pure, powerful mana. Once removed, though, that mana dissipates completely within half an hour, which is probably why mages rarely studied them seriously, until one eventually used these crystals as the foundation for something called mana crystal technology, basically the next leap forward from steam-powered magic, like comparing combustion engines to steam engines. Right now, I'm staring at the literal foundation of that future breakthrough. I need at least one or two of these crystals for experiments. Looking at the slow, lazy creatures munching on rocks, I realize physical force won't get me anywhere. My fire spells probably won't even scratch their thick shells either. I need something subtler. I think of my charm trinket. Maybe charm magic could work on them, even though I've never tried it on a creature like this before. I cast Greased Heels to boost my speed and approach one calmly. It barely notices me, too absorbed in eating rocks. I cast Charm on it directly. Suddenly, the creature turns toward me affectionately, nuzzling against me like an overly large pet. Getting bumped by something this massive feels like getting hit by a wall. I tell it to stop and instead point it toward another rock shrimp nearby, ordering it to attack. It immediately turns hostile and smashes its claw into its former neighbor, cracking the other one's shell. The attacked shrimp fights back instantly, and the two begin a brutal fight to the death right in front of me. The moment they start fighting, I notice my charm effect has already worn off. This fighting is now pure instinct. These creatures are usually calm, but once provoked, their simple minds lock onto violence until one side dies. That stubbornness is probably what keeps their population in check, since they only take about 40 days to mature and reproduce asexually once grown. Watching the fight drag on without a clear winner, I decide it's smarter to speed things up rather than linger here too long. I cast Charm on 2 more shrimp, pulling them into the brawl too. With 4 shrimp fighting now, the chaos spreads, drawing in more of the colony until the whole area erupts into violence. Eventually, one shrimp gets torn apart completely, exposing its crystal heart. I grab the opportunity immediately, using my mage hand to snatch the crystal before any hungry shrimp nearby can eat it themselves. What started as a plan to grab just 1 or 2 crystals turns into 11, ranging from fist size to as small as a marble. Once the chaos settles, I climb up and retreat from the mine. The waiting servants outside sigh in relief seeing me return safely. I wave them off, telling them to keep working on the kiln, then head back to the castle with my pockets full of crystals. Back home, I hold the largest fist-sized crystal and channel its mana directly, casting Fire Arrow. Instead of a normal bolt, a massive fireball the size of a wash basin forms in front of me, way more than I can control. I have no choice but to hurl it away. It crashes into an empty patch in the back garden. The explosion rocks the entire castle, sending everyone running outside to see what happened. When Ed and the others arrive, they find a crater nearly 3 meters wide, still burning, with fused crystal fragments scattered inside. I'm honestly stunned myself. That level of destruction from a basic fire arrow rivals a tier 3 fireball spell. Pure elemental magic really does scale incredibly well when you just throw more raw power behind it. The only downside is these crystals burn out their stored mana too fast to be reusable. I can't recharge them, and they don't actually boost my spellcasting efficiency either. If I hadn't already known their real potential ahead of time, I'd have written them off as a gimmick. Still, I figure some of their properties might work as substitute ingredients for the Stoneskin Potion recipe. I pack the crystals away. My coin purse alone can't hold them all anymore. Honestly, finding these before I leave feels like a satisfying parting gift from this place. With the rest of my time, I take the spider venom glands I collected earlier and head to the small alchemy lab I set up in the castle. I ask the servant how Ralph reacted to my healing salve test. He reports that the external application worked fine. The wound stopped bleeding quickly. But the internal dose hit Ralph hard, sending him into 2 straight hours of violent diarrhea, nearly killing him from dehydration. I declare myself a genius, claiming I nailed the formula on the first try, joking that the side effect could actually be marketed as a constipation cure. The servant standing nearby has nothing to say. He's still haunted by the memory of Ralph's explosive bathroom disaster reaching impressive heights. He's just glad he ran fast enough to avoid getting caught in the blast radius. Unlike the unlucky soldier who apparently wasn't so lucky. I stop by the dungeon to check on Ralph before heading out. He's still on the floor, groaning weakly between bouts of diarrhea. The smell alone makes me turn around and leave immediately. I'll let my staff handle that mess from here. Back in my little lab, I think to myself that this internal use healing salve doubles surprisingly well as a torture device. I mix the spider venom glands into the existing formula, and the once black salve takes on an eerie green glow. My alchemy experience ticks up again, so clearly I'm onto something. I hand it to a servant with instructions to test both the topical and oral effects on Ralph, promising him and the soldier currently guarding the cell 3 silver coins each as compensation. The servant's grumpy expression instantly flips to enthusiasm. For that kind of money, dealing with a little diarrhea is nothing. The next day, I get the full results. Applied externally, wounds close up and scab over within 30 seconds, with what looks like added antibacterial effects. Taken internally, the diarrhea is noticeably milder, probably because Ralph had nothing left in him from the previous round. I decide this potion is ready for the market. The version without spider venom becomes my standard healing salve. The version with it becomes the potent version, sold at triple the price. I can already picture the gold rolling in. To make sure the formula holds up, I head back to the lab and whip up 20 more batches across 4 different variations, instructing the servant to rush them straight to Ralph before they go cold. The servant gives me a suspicious look, clearly starting to suspect I just enjoy tormenting Ralph specifically, but he obediently carries them down anyway. At least Ralph won't need actual meals today. These potions should fill him right up. As I walk past the cell later, I think I hear Ralph screaming something like, "No, I don't want to eat it." I tell myself it's just my imagination, and keep walking without looking back, heading toward the abandoned mine. The cement kiln is finished, and the blacksmith, John, has been working day and night following my instructions. When I arrive, he hands me a pile of plain gray powder, completely unsure what it's even for. I take it eagerly and rub it between my fingers. The texture feels exactly like the cement powder I remember from my old life. It's working. I have them mix it with water, sand, and gravel, testing several different ratios purely by instinct since I don't remember exact measurements. Once several batches are mixed, I set them aside to harden naturally and leave John in charge of monitoring the results. As Baron, giving the initial direction is enough. The rest is for my staff to handle. I'll come check on the results later. With that settled, I decide it's time to head back to Valar Academy. After collecting the final test results on Ralph the next day, I board a ship bound for Starbase City. Meanwhile, back at Viscount Kevin's estate, his steward Fuluin can no longer hide the truth. Word has finally reached Kevin that Carson's entire family was wiped out by bandits, and that I personally inherited everything, and that Ralph's assassination plot against me was exposed and his family dealt with too. Kevin is furious, demanding answers from Fuluin, who simply bows his head and takes the blame without arguing. He knows better than to make excuses with his master this angry. Kevin vents some of his anger, but doesn't actually punish him too harshly. Deep down, he knows there's no easy way to take me down anymore. What surprises him most is that I managed to fully restore order and revive the territory's economy in just 2 weeks. If I weren't already his enemy, he might have actually respected me. For now, all Kevin can do is try to slow my recovery and look for another way to pressure me into swearing loyalty to Count Weddlebrough. With a sigh, he decides not to spend all his energy fighting me directly and turns his attention to other Baron families instead. Then he remembers something. His son, Doug, also attends Valar Academy. Doug apparently has decent magical talent and joined the official mage class last year. Kevin instructs Fuluin to pass along a message. Doug should keep an eye on me, and ideally test me a little. Kevin briefly wishes his younger son could be as impressive as me, but quickly dismisses the thought, placing his real hopes in his older son Reg instead, who has already become a Godpath walker, clearly superior to Doug in his eyes. My journey back is remarkably smooth. I leave without telling anyone in advance, reach Starbase City in 2 days, catch an airship, and arrive at Valar Academy 3 days later with no trouble at all. I'm back, Valar Academy. Honestly, even while I was settling things at home, I never felt completely safe. Real power doesn't bow to rules, and if someone sent an assassin far stronger than me, I'd have had no real way to stop them. But here at the Academy, founded by one of Wall's legendary mages, Anyone bold enough to try an assassination here would be challenging that legendary mage directly. Word of my quiet return to the academy doesn't stay quiet for long. Eunice, who apparently checks the plaza daily, spots me immediately. Lorian, you're back. She rushes toward me, practically bursting with excitement, scolding me for not telling her in advance. Just as she's about to throw her arms around me, she catches herself and stops short, flipping her hair instead to play it cool. The motion brushes her rose-scented hair right across my face, which catches me off guard for a second. Is this some kind of reward? Realizing what she just did, she gets flustered, her pale cheeks turning slightly pink, and quickly pulls out a bag of coins, claiming it's an apology for her clumsy mistake. Her movements are stiff and awkward. Clearly she's not used to apologizing to anyone. Just glancing at the bag, I can tell it's worth well over 100 gold coins. As tempting as it is, I don't want to take advantage of her generosity again, even if accepting feels like the polite thing to do given how sincere she's being. Since you insist, I'll graciously accept your kindness, Eunice, I say with a smile, while pulling out an even bigger pouch from my bag. And this is what I owe you. She blinks, confused for a second before realizing it's the money she lent me before. She'd honestly forgotten about it herself, surprised I even remembered. Normally careful with every coin, she suddenly doesn't want to take it back. Something about it bothers her, like accepting repayment might somehow end the connection between us. She's never really had a true friend before and doesn't quite know how relationships are supposed to work, so some part of her instinctively feels like this unpaid debt is what's keeping us tied together. She turns her head away and changes the subject instead. I already know what happened with your family. Just keep the money. I don't need a few hundred gold coins that badly. I sense there's something deeper behind her refusal. It's clearly not pity, since most people would consider inheriting a title and territory good news, not something to feel sorry about. I can't quite figure out what's going on in her head, but I decide not to push it. Honestly, not repaying debts is kind of my specialty anyway, and there's no interest written into the IOU regardless. To shift the mood, I ask if Professor Caleb scolded her while I was away. She huffs, complaining that he singled her out again for still not knowing Mage Hand despite sitting next to me for so long, which she insists is somehow my fault for never properly teaching her. I remind her gently that I did teach her. I don't care. If I didn't learn it, that means you didn't really teach me, she insists stubbornly, swinging her twin ponytails like she might smack me with them. I play along, apologizing for my supposedly terrible teaching, which softens her instantly. She backs off, muttering that she didn't mean it that seriously. We end up walking to my dorm without really noticing. Once she checks that no one's around, she pulls out a glowing golden rose from her pocket, solid gold in appearance, yet somehow alive with energy. I recognize it immediately as a class change item, the Rose of Wujin, also known as the Goddess's Rose. Looks like you're ready, Eunice, I say, watching her closely. She takes a deep breath and nods, admitting that if this fails, she'll just remain an ordinary person forever. Under my gaze, she finally crushes the golden rose in her hand. Golden light bursts from the broken flower, swirling into her body. A faint coin-shaped mark appears on the back of her hand, and in that instant, she learns the actual requirement for becoming a God Path Walker. She has to personally earn at least 10,000 gold within 1 month, through any means, as long as it's not simply given to her by someone else. The moment she reads this condition out loud, a thread of light flies out from me and lands on the coin mark, filling about a 20th of it. I blink. Wait, what? Eunice explains, completely serious. The ritual has officially valued me as a personal connection she's gained at exactly 500 gold. I throw open my door, offended. 500? You're kidding me. She follows right behind, insisting just as seriously that she thinks I should actually be worth more. So how much am I worth to you? I ask. 1,000 tops. Oh, come on. I'm priceless. I flick her on the forehead, and we end up bickering our way into my room. Seeing me pretend to be annoyed brings back that easy, comfortable feeling we always used to have together. But then reality sets in for her. She needs to earn at least 9,500 more gold within a month, completely on her own. If she could just use her father's business connections, she could probably hit that number instantly. But doing it truly from scratch, without leaning on anyone else's help, worries her. This ritual is meant to draw the real attention of the goddess of wealth herself. If she tries to cheat or cut corners, there's no telling whether it'll even count. She climbs onto my bed like she owns the place, propping her chin on her hand, watching me expectantly. Hey, Lorian, do you have any good ideas? I point at myself, stunned. You're asking me. She's the one already running an actual store. Why is she asking a mage for business advice? I think you're smarter than me, she says, kicking my leg lightly with her bare foot, eyes bright with genuine hope. Besides, the money the Golden Flame shop makes doesn't even count toward my own personal earnings. After 2.5 years as my desk mate, she genuinely believes I'm smarter than her. She practically admires me, if I'm being honest with myself. You dare kick me again. I grab her small foot before she can pull it back, half tempted to just hold on to it forever. I genuinely can't figure out how someone can have such soft, perfect skin without any effort. Her embarrassment only grows as I examine her foot more closely than I probably should. Blushing furiously, Eunice threatens to kick me again if I don't say something. When she does, I give her foot a light squeeze without thinking, and she lets out an unexpectedly cute little yelp, immediately turning away in embarrassment. Seeing her like this stirs something in me, but I take a breath and remind myself who she actually is. The daughter of a powerful merchant family with serious connections. Getting too bold with her now, before I have real power and standing of my own, would be a terrible idea. I let go of her foot and pull out my jar of healing salve instead, deciding it's safer to change the subject completely. If you want a way to make real money, I actually have something, I tell her, setting the dark salve down in front of her. The mood shifts instantly. Eunice yanks her foot back, sits up properly, and tries to calm her racing heart. She looks at the strange black salve, confused, asking what it even is. I explain it's my own healing salve recipe, complete with test results. I pull out a notebook documenting Ralph's reactions to various formulas, applied and ingested, and show her the best version I found. A potent healing salve that closes wounds and stops bleeding fast when applied externally, and works as a powerful detox when taken internally. The version with cave spider venom glands triples the effect of the regular formula. Best of all, it doesn't require a mage to produce. Any doctor with basic alchemy skill can make it, and I've already worked out the exact ratios through testing. Eunice's sharp business instincts kick in immediately. She knows healing potions sell for at least 30 gold a bottle on the market, with even minor versions costing 5. Astronomical prices for most people, since only trained potion makers can legally produce them at those rates. My salve, though, could undercut that entire market completely. That's exactly why I'm bringing this to her. Selling something this disruptive on a large scale alone would make me way too many enemies. I need someone with real protection behind them, and she's perfect for that role. For Eunice, this means a real shot at hitting her 10,000 gold goal within the month, something that felt nearly impossible just minutes ago. Lorian, thank you so much. Overcome with excitement, she throws her arms around me and kisses my cheek before immediately realizing what she just did. She turns bright red, pulling back to nervously check my reaction. When I don't react right away, she gets annoyed instead, smacking my chest and accusing me of being used to women kissing me already. No, I just froze for a second, I quickly explain. Stop talking about it, she says, covering my mouth with her hand, flustered all over again. She steers the conversation back to business, discussing patents, sales, and profit splits for the South. Despite wanting to give me a bigger cut personally, she settles on an 80-20 split in her favor, given she still needs to hit her wealth quota for the ritual. My recipe counts as my contribution. She'll handle everything else: production, sales, distribution, and pay me 20% of the net profit on every sale. She adds one more condition. I should get certified as a basic potion maker first. With backing from the Alchemist Guild and her help filing the paperwork, getting an official patent should go smoothly. Guess I need to take a potions class then, I say, nodding along. Wait. Eunice's eyes go wide, staring at me like I've grown a second head. You haven't even taken a potions class yet? In her mind, anyone capable of producing something like this should already be a certified apprentice at minimum. I just shrug, holding up my basic alchemy textbook. I picked it up on the trip home. I figure a couple of classes and some practice, and I should be ready for the certification exam. She goes quiet for a moment, then furiously kicks me twice with her bare foot. You insufferable genius. This is so unfair. Potion making is supposedly even more talent-dependent than regular magic, something that normally takes years of dedicated study under a real mentor. And here I am, learning it from a book in my spare time, while she spent 2.5 years failing to even master basic mage hand. She looks ready to bite my head off out of pure frustration, though in the end, she doesn't actually follow through on that particular reward. Once she leaves, practically glowing with excitement, clutching the recipe and records, I sit alone in my quiet room and check my quest log. A new quest appears. Help Eunice complete her ritual to become a wealth god pathwalker. Medium difficulty, currently at 5% progress, with a base reward of 500 gold and a charm fragment. I think to myself, this is exactly the kind of quest I like. More of these, please. Though the real challenge here probably isn't on my end at all. It's going to depend entirely on how well Eunice handles her side of things. Deciding I should keep a closer eye on her progress, I close my status panel and head over to Professor Caleb's office. I'm back, Professor Caleb. I'm glad you made it back so quickly, Lorian. I can go ahead and formally submit your application for the mage class. Seeing me again, Caleb looks visibly pleased. He can easily sense that my mana has grown far stronger since I left. Professor Caleb pulls out a mana measuring device and tests me right there. My mana reads 201. Past 200 already, Lorian, he says, clearly thrilled. He knows my family's situation and is genuinely amazed I managed this much growth without any advanced meditation techniques. Even the gifted students in his official mage class haven't shown progress like this. He looks at me like he's discovered a rare gem, eager to see what I'll accomplish next. Seeing how happy he is, I take the chance to ask about enrolling in a potions class. He doesn't stop me, but offers a gentle warning. Alchemy is a deep, demanding field, and a mage's energy is limited. In his experience, talented mages who try to master too many disciplines at once usually end up mediocre at everything instead of excellent at one thing, and by the time they realize their mistake, it's too late to refocus. I'll keep your advice in mind, Professor, I say respectfully, understanding exactly what he means. But I already know the path I'm walking is different. With my current abilities, picking up extra skills isn't really a risk for me. As long as I can actually master what I take on, it just becomes another tool in my arsenal. He doesn't push the issue further, simply takes 10 gold coins from me and registers me for the potions course. Here at the Academy, only the free public lectures are truly free. Everything else costs money, and even the spells taught in class often come with an additional fee. That's exactly why I spent 2.5 years here, mostly attending public lectures before now. Once registered, I head over to the potions classroom right on time. There are noticeably fewer mages here compared to regular classes. Being a new face, I draw plenty of curious glances. My looks alone spark some quiet conversation among the seated students. The chatter dies instantly the moment a tall, graceful figure walks in. She wears a flowing green robe and a mage's hat woven elegantly from vines and flowers. Her platinum hair flows down, seeming to drift gently as if lifted by an invisible breeze, partially revealing pointed elven ears beneath the strands. Her skin is pale as fresh snow, and her striking features instantly mark her as a high elf. An elf mage? I'm honestly surprised. This is the first time I've seen another race teaching here at the Academy. I guess I really have been keeping to myself this whole time, sticking to the old-fashioned mage routine. When our eyes meet, hers narrow slightly, and I catch a flicker of genuine admiration in them. Isolde, apparently her chosen human name, seems momentarily struck by my appearance, something she's clearly not used to feeling toward a human man. She finds my looks unexpectedly pleasing. Quickly composing herself, she looks away and addresses the class. My human name is Isolde. You may call me that, she announces. I'll be teaching basic alchemy today. For herb identification, please refer to your textbooks on your own time. She launches into a formal lecture on alchemy fundamentals. If I hadn't already maxed out this skill on my own, I'd probably be hanging on to every word right now. But since I already understand most of what she's explaining, I find myself slightly bored. Eventually, she reaches the core of true potion making: extraction and magic flame. These are what separate real alchemy from simple potion mixing. Please pay the required fee here. She taps her wand against the podium, and a glowing magic circle appears, prompting students to scan their academy cards. Anyone who's already paid can skip this step. Everyone else needs to settle up or leave the room. I have my own academy card, of course, though I never had enough spare money before to bother loading it. Barely enough for daily expenses. Things are different now. Before coming here, I'd already converted 1,000 gold coins into 500 academy credits, since credits function as the real currency within these walls. When I scan my card against the circle, 250 credits vanish instantly. Ouch! That hurts watching 500 gold disappear in an instant, even though I can technically afford it now. About a quarter of the class quietly gets up and leaves rather than pay. The rest of us settle in, determined not to waste the money we just spent. Once the magic circle fades, Isolde continues the lesson. Extraction lets you pull out a material's potency as thoroughly as possible. Building the spell model requires. Just listening passively earns me experience toward extraction. Your precision and control over mana directly affects how pure and potent your extraction turns out, she explains, sweeping her hand gracefully. Glowing starleaf herbs appear in front of each student. Now practice on these. If anyone's struggling, I'll go over it again. The room tenses visibly, several first time. Students look completely lost after her dense explanation, while the more experienced ones immediately start channeling mana, forming swirling vortexes around their herbs to slowly extract the potency inside. I jump right in too, carefully guiding my own mana to construct the spell model for extraction. The mana flows out smoothly, wrapping around the starleaf herb, seeping into its leaves and stem, gradually saturating every cell within it. I focus completely on the herb in front of me, not even noticing Isolde stepping closer. Extraction demands way more concentration than a basic spell. It requires steady, continuous mana flow, unlike most one-shot spells. Once the mana fully saturates the starleaf herb, I close my hand, and a small droplet of green liquid floats up gently in front of me. A slender hand reaches in and lifts the droplet carefully using her own controlled mana. Isolde examines it closely, noting that despite some minor impurities, it's already at 70% purity, then asks if this is my first time practicing the spell. I tell her honestly, I studied the theory from a book, but this is my first time actually casting it. She's quietly stunned. In her experience, achieving this level of purity normally takes dozens of repeated attempts over an entire day. My technique is rough around the edges, sure, but every fundamental principle she just taught is already showing up correctly in my execution. Meaning if I'd practiced even a little beforehand, I'd probably be flawless already. Not bad, she says simply, masking her surprise, setting the sample aside. The rest of the class can't help staring at me now, several looking genuinely shocked once they realize how difficult this spell actually is to master this fast. I ignore their reactions and keep practicing. Learning a brand new spell model naturally boosts my mana too. It climbs from 201 to 205, and the moment I level up extraction, a flood of understanding crashes into my mind. My once clumsy technique instantly becomes smooth and efficient. What used to take me 30 seconds per herb now takes under 10. The other mages in the room, who'd been quietly skeptical, are now completely stunned. They watch my technique sharpen in real time, surpassing students who've been practicing here for weeks or even months. The gap is so large that nobody even feels jealous anymore, just shock. Having burned through more than half my mana, I stop and look up, catching Isolde staring at me with undisguised admiration. Feeling a little self-conscious, I gently remind her, "Instructor Isolde, isn't it time to cover magic flame?" "Oh, yes, of course." She snaps out of it immediately, a faint blush coloring her pale cheeks as she scrambles to regain her composure, clearly embarrassed at getting caught staring. She launches into her lesson on magic flame, explaining that unlike extraction, it's a spell that's easy to learn but extremely hard to truly master. Normal fire isn't precise or hot enough for real potion making. Magic flame's varying temperatures and properties form the entire foundation of true alchemy. As she speaks, she conjures shimmering, colorful flames in her palm, lighting up the whole room, her gaze drifting toward me more than once throughout the explanation. I soak up every word like a sponge. Through her teaching, I finally understand why I kept failing to recreate proper healing potions before. Magic flame is just as essential as extraction, sometimes requiring multiple different flame types layered together for a single brew. No wonder a real healing potion costs 30 gold. The process is genuinely demanding. I also finally understand the complicated flame instructions listed in the Bloodburn and Stoneskin potion recipes back home. They were referencing exactly this technique. The spell model for Magic Flame builds directly on basic fire control, likely fused with another Tier 1 spell called Elemental Absorption. The combination of these two spells became the true cornerstone of alchemy, which is probably why I'm picking it up even faster than Extraction. I raise my hand and instantly form the spell model. A burst of intense red fire erupts in my palm, heat distorting the air around it, temperatures spiking well over 1,000 degrees. Thankfully, the classroom's protective wards keep everyone else from feeling more than a slight warmth. Without pausing, I mentally shift the absorbed elemental particles, swapping the raging red flame for a calm, vibrant green one infused with wood element energy. Isolde's mouth actually falls open in shock. A genius, an absolute genius. Someone brand new to alchemy, already capable of switching elemental flame types on the fly. Whoever trained Lorien Thorn must be incredibly lucky to have such a student. While she's still stunned, I take the opportunity to keep asking questions, trying to milk every bit of extra experience I can from her explanations. Listening to a real teacher is clearly faster than practicing alone. Seeing that I'm not getting arrogant despite my talent, and instead staying humble and curious, only deepens her fondness for me. Normally, her gifted students are cold and distant, barely speaking to her unless she initiates. Being a teacher has felt pretty thankless for her until now. She's been craving a real student to actually teach, as opposed to either prodigies who ignore her or hopeless cases she'd rather avoid entirely. Of course, ask away if anything's unclear, she says, her face softening into a warm smile. Combined with her stunning looks, that smile catches me off guard for a half second. Thankfully, my curiosity wins out over any other distraction, and I quickly ask, "Instructor, how do you control two different?" The experience keeps pouring in with every question I ask, the gains shrinking each time as pure theory alone stops being enough. Real progress now requires hands-on practice instead. Still, jumping straight to level 3 in Magic Flame feels incredibly satisfying. I definitely got my money's worth from this class. At level 3, I can now control two different elemental flame types simultaneously during brewing, more than enough for most basic potion recipes, which usually only need one anyway. I leave the alchemy class feeling pretty pleased with myself. The spells weren't as hard as I expected. I figure if I practice a bit more today, I can try brewing an actual potion in the alchemy workshop tomorrow. Most of the other mages walk out looking dazed, like my performance just shattered their confidence completely. A few of them clearly realize for the first time just how far they really are from true talent. Even Isolde, standing at the podium, seems shaken. She wanted to comfort her students, but realizes she's feeling pretty discouraged herself. She'd always considered herself gifted, but my talent makes hers look like less than half of mine by comparison. Confused, she heads straight to the office, determined to look into who exactly I am, since she doesn't remember any Lorien Thorn being part of the official mage class. This is the first time she's ever taken this much personal interest in a student. On my way back to the dorm, I convert most of my gold into academy credits. Now that I'm an official mage, I'll need credits for workshop access, lessons, and supplies regularly. I keep about 500 gold aside just in case. Looking at my 1,500 credits, I feel reasonably secure. I figure I need to keep my mana fueled properly to train efficiently, so I buy 5 bottles of mana restoration potion at 20 gold each, then spend another 200 credits to buy the actual recipe for it. Apparently a fair price thanks to subsidies from the Alchemists Guild. Looking over the recipe, Spring Vine, Star Leaf, it doesn't look too complicated. I head back to my room, drink 1 bottle immediately, and start practicing both Magic Flame and Extraction at once, splitting my focus between controlling fire and pulling potion liquid from random weeds I picked up outside. Both spells level up to 4 by the time I burn through all 5 potions. Completely drained, I collapse and don't wake up again until noon the next day. Rubbing my aching temples, I decide I need to pace myself better. Casting drains mental energy just as much as mana, maybe more. Still, Learning to multitask 2 spells at once should help both with potion making and combat down the line. Lorien, open up. Where have you been all morning? Eunice's energetic knocking interrupts my thoughts. Still half asleep, I use Mage Hand to open the door without thinking. She bursts in eagerly, then gasps seeing my exhausted face. Whoa, Lorien, what happened? Those dark circles are huge. Then her eyes drift lower, catching sight of my bare upper body, sharply defined muscles, a clear six-pack. She swallows audibly, staring a little too long before snapping out of it 10 seconds later, her cheeks flushing bright red. Covering her eyes with both hands, she scolds me, dramatically for being some kind of exhibitionist. I'm not exposing anything. I was sleeping in my own room. I shoot back, quickly throwing on a shirt and my apprentice robe. Peeking through her fingers the whole time, Eunice watches my body disappear from view with a small twinge of regret. Maybe she shouldn't have covered her eyes so quickly after all. A small, mischievous giggle escapes her. That laugh is creepy, Eunice, I tell her flatly. She huffs indignantly, stomping her foot like an offended cat, turning away while desperately trying not to smile. Trying to change the subject, she quickly announces she's already booked me a slot at Alchemy Workshop 23, and it's almost my turn, so we should hurry. The workshop has 12 simple stations arranged in rows, each equipped with mana lamps, small crucibles, mortars, and distillation tools. Just getting access here cost 100 credits. Private workshops cost even more, and I'm not about to waste money on that yet. Settling at Station 9, I snap my fingers at Eunice. My assistant, go grab the materials I need. She glares at me, gritting her teeth, but obediently heads to the supply area to gather everything according to the recipe, materials that, conveniently, get billed to her account instead of mine. Works out perfectly for me. Once she returns with everything, I get straight to work. I conjure magic flame, igniting the crucible with a deep blue water element flame, bringing the magic water inside to a boil. I move through the steps smoothly, using extraction to pull liquid from the herbs, mixing spring vine and starleaf at a precise 1 minute and 2.5 seconds ratio, switching the flame to a wood element variant to balance the brew. Once the liquid turns a pale green, I remove the heat and let it cool. The result, a successful batch of mana restoration potion, though its purity comes in under 70%, meaning drinking too much could cause mana instability or even poisoning. Still, I'm thrilled. First attempt, and it actually worked, thanks to all the hands-on alchemy experience I built up back home before any of this formal training even started. Eunice stares at the slightly murky potion in disbelief. It actually worked? Of course. Want to try it? I hand it over without hesitation. She eyes it suspiciously, clearly remembering some of the disastrous test results from Ralph's healing salve trials. Thinking quickly, she holds the potion up instead and announces loudly, 5 gold coins to whoever wants to test this potion for me. 5 gold? I'll do it. A crowd of broke mage apprentices nearby. Regulars who make extra cash testing unverified potions for about a gold coin normally, instantly swarms toward her, eager for the unusually generous offer. A mage apprentice in his 30s grabs the 5 gold coins from Eunice's hand and drinks the potion. He gives me solid feedback. The taste is a bit bitter from over-concentrating. The brew too quickly, but the purity is decent and the mana recovery effect works well. Overall, my extraction technique is clearly strong. Just the flame control needs some refinement. Based on the result, he assumes I've been brewing potions for a while now, calling this a passing grade effort. I take his feedback seriously. Mistakes on a first attempt are expected, but knowing exactly what went wrong matters most. Having a real mentor point things out beats blindly guessing through trial and error. Meanwhile, Eunice is completely stunned. She knows this was actually my very first brew, yet the tester assumed I'd been doing this for ages. Right then, she notices the coin mark on her hand fill and slightly more. She mutters to herself that investing in talented people must count as a legitimate way to earn wealth in the goddess's eyes too, staring at my focused expression with a goofy, happy little smile. I snap her out of it, asking her to fetch 3 more batches of materials. Several students nearby are stunned just hearing how casually I order around the daughter of the Golden Flame Guild's leader, and even more shocked when she actually goes and does it without any noble attitude at all. A few students who practically worship Eunice look genuinely shaken by what they're witnessing. Most others, though, are too fixated on my obvious alchemy talent to care. Everyone here understands what becoming a certified potion maker really means, and if the setting weren't so public, they'd probably already be trying to network with me. Feeling more confident after my first successful brew, I get bolder with my technique. I form a controlled mana vortex in front of me, using a method called centrifugal extraction, only possible once you truly understand the basics of saturation. It looks similar to a beginner's unstable swirl, but mine stays steady and efficient, pulling potency from multiple herbs at once, dripping directly into the boiling crucible. My output increases over 5-fold compared to my earlier manual approach, freeing up my attention to focus more precisely on flame control instead. Batch after batch comes together faster and faster. Once I finish the third batch, I check the time and decide that's enough for today. All right, that's it for now. Eunice, where do I go to get the official potion maker certification? I nudge her, since she's gone half numb just bottling potions at this point. Excluding the very first wasted attempt, all 3 remaining batches turn out perfectly, 15 full bottles of usable mana potion. After costs, that's roughly 300 gold worth of product from one short session. That's 15 bottles an hour. No, wait, 20. If we do this 24 hours a day, I am not a slave, and I am definitely not a machine. Okay, 20 hours then. I chop the air with my hand, smacking down her ridiculous fantasy before it grows any further. Even forced labor camps don't push people that hard. I'm joking. Even just a few hours a day sounds incredibly profitable, she says, rubbing her head and leaning in close, eyes practically turning into gold coin symbols. First, we can't even book this workshop every single day. Second, I don't have unlimited energy. This is at best a side hustle for me. Third, and most importantly, I haven't even gotten my official certification yet. I tap her forehead a few more times for emphasis, making her stumble backward. Stop, my smart little brain is getting knocked stupid, she mutters, finally settling down, looking slightly embarrassed remembering how greedy she just sounded. Maybe she only lets herself act this unguarded because it's me she's with. The Alchemist Guild has a branch right here at the Academy. Getting a basic certification just requires paying a fee and signing up, but there's a specific time window, and it's coming up soon. Let's hurry. She grabs my arm and pulls me along toward the exit. Not long after we leave, a young noble in a finely tailored wool tunic arrives outside the workshop, looking around impatiently. This is Doug, searching for any sign of us. As Viscount Kevin's second son, Doug shares the common frustration of being an overlooked younger child. But unlike most in his position, he refuses to accept a lesser future, believing his magical talent deserves more recognition than his father or older brother ever gave him. Hitting a wall in his own progress and desperate for serious funding to break through, he set his sights on Eunice over a year ago, drawn by both her beauty and her family's wealth. But his advances have gone consistently unanswered, which only makes him more obsessed. After receiving his father's message yesterday telling him to watch me closely, Doug immediately recognized exactly who I was. The handsome, old-fashioned mage who always sat next to Eunice, the one he'd previously dismissed as harmless competition. Despite his looks. But everything's changed now. It's not just his father's instructions pushing him to pay attention. It's the unsettling discovery that Eunice and I have apparently grown much closer than he realized, all without his knowledge. Grabbing a servant by the collar, Doug snaps angrily, demanding to know where we went after supposedly being spotted at the workshop. The flustered servant scrambles to reassure him he'll find us immediately, desperate not to embarrass his young master in front of everyone watching. Doug, anxious and impatient, has already decided in his mind that Eunice belongs to him as his future fiancée, and he's desperate to prove himself valuable in his father's eyes by tracking us down. Completely unaware that Doug is hunting for them, Lorien and Eunice have already arrived at the Alchemist Guild.